people's and the people's choice.
It's breaking down on the side of the road, yeah. It's crawling in the darkness like a king snake in the woods. Hiding in the tall grass, hiding in the tall grass. Just looking for a place to shed our skin. On the sun and the Holy Ghost from the battlefield. And in the morning, this whole world won't be the same. Won't be the same, no.
Oh, snapshot lightning, monument expressions, silhouetted faces in a flesh, cypress trees and killing vines.
Dig it in the mud, girl. Let's dig it in the mud, girl. Just looking for a place to shed our skin. We're gonna summon the Holy Ghost from the battlefield. And in the morning, this whole world won't be the same. We're gonna summon the Holy Ghost from the battlefield. And in the morning, this whole world won't be the same. Won't be the same, no.
They need a bit of hot sun. Rolling from the station, we were foaming at the mouth. Sipping on a tall boy, sipping on a tall boy. Just looking for a place to shed our skin. Summon the Holy Ghost from the battlefield. In the morning, this whole world won't be the same. We're gonna summon the Holy Ghost from the battlefield. And in the morning, this whole world won't be the same. We're gonna summon the Holy Ghost from the battlefield. And in the morning, this whole world won't be the same. Show me the way. We're gonna summon the Holy Ghost. We're gonna summon the Holy Ghost. We're gonna summon the Holy Ghost. The Holy Ghost. 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 The Holy Ghost. Summon the Holy Ghost. The Holy Ghost. Summon the Holy Ghost.
All right, that's not the way I like to end a song, though. Yeah. Gotta fade it out, right? There we go. We'll take it while we can get it because the disruptions are not making it too much fun. But anyways, hopefully everybody can hear me all right. All right. Yes. Okay. Everybody hear me okay? We all good? We all good? Holy Ghost. Amen. Yep. Yeah, it's too bad. I was actually at that Bonnaroo, that show. I remember that one very well. That was a pleasant surprise and tons of fun. That was actually the encore. So that was a lot of fun. And they did it again at some point. And they might have actually originally done it. I'm pretty sure this is the original one. They might have done it at a New Year's show as well because it was such a hit. But anyways, hey, how's it going? I haven't been here in a couple of weeks. I haven't seen you guys. I have been, my computer went down. I don't know if you guys know this story, but my PC went down the night that we had the illustrious Cool Frog stream after he got his channel banned. And we had all those guys on. So that was the night that Nick was on. Nick Ricada came on, and Legal Mindset, and all kinds of people came on to show that they were there with us, and I guess and supporting us, smaller creators, and it was really good stuff. But anyways, yeah, for all nights for my PC to go down, where my good microphone is the night that I'm on a stream with Nick Ricada for the first time. So there you have it. Jeez. Thank you, Natural Kitty. I missed all you guys too, man. I hope you all remember where we left off, because if you remember right, I was told you when we left off, we're going to do this next. So I got my PC back $600 later or so, but I got a new motherboard, got a new cooler, and I shouldn't have any more issues. I built this like 5 years ago, and it was really state of the art for its time. And slight upgrades is really all it took, but it should hopefully perform a lot better, and in some ways that probably none of us will notice, but hope so. I think the next thing is going to be upgrading the graphics card. The 3070s are coming down in price. That might be next. I might help out a lot more with the streaming as well. It was a recommendation. I just wasn't ready to do it at the time, but I'm back. And that's the key thing. Now we can start doing more. Man, with so many people I know and watch all streaming now, it's really hard to find a day and time to do it consistently. So I guess for now we're like once a week is going to be all right. When we get to like maybe if the crowd grows more, there's more demand, we can do more than just one a week. I would be perfectly willing to do that. I just don't, I just want to make sure that it's not we're not kind of like going against somebody else, or it's going to happen inevitably, but not that we're trying to squeeze out a spot and we don't really have the the crowd yet, the crowd size yet to demand it. So as it goes, more important to me is talking to the right people, and people that are interested in real solutions and interested in learning more about the world, and kind of just talking about things and thinking about things together. That's what this channel's about. So it's not for everybody. Just like my parody videos aren't for everybody, but it's about who it's right for, right? And that's kind of like more about what we're going to talk about today. So how's everybody doing? Oh yeah, by the way, here's your intro. All right, it's the crowd. Okay, and how's everybody doing? I've seen you guys around. I've been out and about. I've been on different streams and such. So it's like I haven't seen you, but we haven't had our own time together in a while. Man, and I guess the more I travel around and hang out on other channels, the more I begin to really appreciate this time right here, and the fact that we get to do it, and it's getting better every week. Hey, look, I even had the audio right today. Oh man, yep. Yeah, so how's this time working for everybody? Everybody showed up here, or they were here. I don't see Sheeple Hunter yet, but I'm sure he'll be around at some point. Sometimes it runs into football games, but 8:30 Sunday work for everybody. At least that's a good starting point for us. And if it takes off to where we can do more, then we'll do more. We'll just, it's going to change over time. It's going to be a lot of things. It's just the nature of the beast. like I said, it's like I'm a local band right now. First I was a solo local guy, and now I'm kind of getting into the local band mood. So I still got to make we still got to break into the local scene here, and then we can we'll get onto the touring aspect of it. Yeah, I know Mindset's on too. I was watching that, but I watched a little bit of it. I couldn't stick around too long, but yeah, this guy, dude, what are you going to do, man? Some people stream every day, twice a day. What are you going to do? There's nothing you can do about that. So I hope that people want to see something a little bit different and can catch one of their other shows and are willing to stop by and talk about some new things with me. And some of the guests I'll have on and so on. I'm going to try to branch out a little bit and offer a little bit more. But tonight we're going to, and hopefully Mindset will come on here at some point. I just want to have a good topic for him. I try to really invite people that are interested in the topics. So we have good conversations. I just don't, better than inviting anybody. And then you get some criticism and you get sidetracked and somebody's telling stories about high school and stuff. And, you just kind of want to focus on the topic for change. Right. Hey, Jessica, how you doing? So, so that's why, again, it's like this Sunday evening meetup is like a lot of fun for me. And we get to really drill down and talk about some really cool, groovy things. And we're going to talk about some really cool, groovy things tonight, including emergence, spontaneous order. And we're also going to take those two concepts into a deeper dive on reality here at the end. So we're going to have lots of fun things to talk about. And I think that if you guys like this, we can do a part 2 where we go deeper into the emergent theories that are out there and really drill down on the little nuts and bolts. But that gets really nerdy, and it's really going to be, you guys have to let me know if that's what you want to do. Okay. Because that will take some brain power. You're going to have to, as far as focusing on some really nerdy concepts, but I'll give you a preview of it tonight to see if you like it. So I'll tell you what, let's jump into our first video here and let's talk about, let's just kind of get introduced to what emergence is and where we're going with this. All right. So let's take a look here. And we'll do it how about like that? Okay. Is that going to be in the way? I'll be all right.
An ant is pretty stupid. It doesn't have much of a brain, no will, no plan. And yet, many ants together are smart. An ant colony can construct complex structures. Some colonies keep farms of fungi. Others take care of cattle. They can wage war or defend themselves. How is this possible? How can a bunch of stupid things do smart things together? This phenomenon is called emergence, and it's one of the most fascinating and mysterious features of our universe. In a nutshell, it describes small things forming bigger things that have different properties than the sum of their parts. Emergence is complexity arising from simplicity, and emergence is everywhere. Water has vastly different properties to the molecules that make it up, like the concept of wetness. Take wet fabric. If you zoom in far enough, there is no wetness. There are just molecules sitting in the spaces between the atoms of the cloth. Wetness is an emerging property of water, something new, only created by a lot of individual interactions between water molecules. And this is sort of it. Many things interact under a certain set of rules, creating something above and beyond themselves. It turns out that more is different. This different property is itself a new thing, and that new thing can couple with other new things to repeat the process. You can imagine this as layers stacked upon each other, every layer made from more complex parts. Atoms form molecules. Molecules form proteins. Proteins make up cells. Cells make up organs. Organs form individuals. Individuals form societies. But how can something be more than the sum of its parts? How do ants form the sort of cloudy entity that is a colony? By following a rule set that produces order through chaos. For example, let's look at how an ant colony distributes jobs. Let's assume that a colony should have 25% workers, 25% caretakers, 25% soldiers, and 25% gatherers. Ants communicate their current job via chemicals. For example, a worker ant constantly secretes chemicals that say,
"This is really interesting right here."
Worker. When ants meet other ants, they smell each other to gather information, telling each other their job and what they're doing. Both keep track of who they met in the past. Now, imagine an anteater kills most of the gatherers. If this isn't fixed quickly, the colony will starve. Many worker ants need to switch jobs, but how do you tell this to thousands of them? Simple, you don't. Our worker ant will still meet and smell other ants, but it will encounter almost no gatherers at all. It counts too few gatherers until it reaches a critical point, and then it changes its job. The worker becomes a gatherer. Other ants will do the same until after a while there are enough gatherers again.
It's pretty
The
wild,
balance
huh?
is restored all by itself. The actions and interactions of an individual are random. You can't plan which ant will encounter which other ant, but the simple set of rules is so elegant that a colony's many operations emerged as a consequence. On an even more fundamental level, hundreds of millions of complicated molecules interact to maintain a robust and amazing structure. A being with vastly different properties than the sum of its dead parts emerges. The smallest unit of life, a cell. We still don't have a clear definition of what living things are, we just know they emerge from things that are not alive. Cells combine and cooperate, they specialize and respond to one another, and over time, we develop into complex organisms with remarkable capacities. Your arms and legs and heart are an incredibly complex and complicated system made of trillions of individual stupid things. And yet we breathe, digest, and watch YouTube videos. How do your cells know what to do? Think of the pacemaker cells in your heart. Billions of them need to send out an impulse just at the right moment to collectively create a heartbeat. Our cells exchange chemical information with their neighbor cells to see what they're up to and then decide what to do. If it's among a lot of cells that are working on the same task, it will start working on that task as well and sync up with them.
So that does it make you wonder, like, I'm watching this, I'm thinking to myself, so that happens like without any kind of knowledge, right? To us, right? So how often is it that we are just, we're around people or someone new or someone we know, and that same messaging is going on, right? Yeah, think about that as we go, because that's an important concept in the entire idea of like emergence and spontaneous order.
There is no mastermind giving commands, just single units communicating with their neighbors and acting according to the feedback they get. What about our most important part? What is the thing that asks these kinds of questions? Is our consciousness then an emergent property of the cells in our brain? This question is too big and important. It deserves a video of its own. Some things that emerge are hard to define. You can't touch an ant colony, only its parts. It has neither brain, nor face, nor body. And yet the colony interacts with the world. Just like colonies emerge from ants, things emerge from humans, like nations. What actually is a nation? Is it its population? Is it its institutions? Its symbols like its flag, colors, or anthems? The physical things it makes like cities? The territory it occupies? All of these things are fluid. Populations change and are replaced. Institutions come and go. Cities can be constructed and abandoned. Borders have changed all the time for most of history. And symbols get replaced by new symbols. A nation has no face, no brain,
We're just getting started.
Body.
Hey, Rose.
Are nations not real then? Of course they are. Just like ant colonies, nations interact with the world. They can change landscapes, wage wars.
Yeah, when you fly over the country, you get a really good idea of that concept.
But they only exist because of a lot of humans interacting with each other. But not just nations. All the complex structures that surround us emerge from us. Even if we don't intend to, we are constantly creating communities, companies, cities, societies. All of these things are entities that have fundamentally different properties and abilities than the pretty stupid apes they emerged from. We don't know why any of this happens, we just observe it, and it seems to be a fundamental property of our universe. It may be the most beautiful and wondrous property of our universe.
What happened? All right. Oops. That's that one. What's up? Who got a strike? Did I get a strike? I might have striked. Oh, Jesus. Figures. What in the world? All right. So I took it off. We back. What? Hey, someone sent me a super chat. Hey, thanks, Jessica. Oh. Am I back yet? Am I back yet? Am I back? Am I back? Am I back? All right. Hang in there. Oh, you know what? I haven't checked Rumble. Hey, Rumble, you're probably still there, aren't you? How's it going? I don't even know how to like stream on this side. Sorry if you're there watching and I haven't acknowledged you yet. I will look live streaming. What does this do? Is in progress. Hey, Cool Frog. Cool Frogs in Rumble. All right. Hey. All right. So a lot of firsts tonight. When am I coming back? Oh, come on. How long does this take? Okay, hey, I'm back. How's it going? You guys see me? You guys hear me? We good? I think I'm back. Oh, hang in there. Okay. I'm back. Okay, good. Everybody hears me. All right. Look, Jessica sent me a super chat. Thank you, Jessica, for the $4.99. You are my first super chat. In fact, I'm going to take a screenshot. I have to take it for the scrapbook here. And obviously, that was the first time I think my stream's ever been taken down too. And I'm streaming on Rumble for the first time tonight. And Cool Frog was the first one over there. There you have it. Okay, that's saved. All right. Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. So I guess we learned something today about that. Hopefully that none of the other ones are going to do this to me as well, because I have a bunch of other ones to go over. Let's see. We'll just move on to the next one. I'll just try to talk a little bit more on it. I let that one kind of run on its own for a bit. So I will do that. That's awesome, dude. I can't believe it. All right. Let's do it. Okay, so Emergence. So why is this important? One thing I wanted to cover before we got started on the next one is it's important because we're looking at things like from a solution standpoint, and like we're looking at ways to be effective as a group, but without becoming what we're against, right? That's basically what it is in a nutshell. Real drilled down. Not drilled down, high level. Really what it is like, they have a very authoritarian, very manipulative, very deceptive system, right? That we're all being absorbed into as others are falling into it and participating in it. We're kind of being drifted along in this, right? And well, the way this would work is by understanding these bigger universal concepts and how what the nature of reality is and how it works. We can outthink and outmove the people that are trying to change reality into what they want it to be, right? A controlled authoritarian system with a lack of morals and a lack of principles and just, degeneracy and basically the bad kind, right? But, tax on children and innocence, no regard for life. We know what we're talking about here, right? This system that we're in is dragging us towards that outcome. And we all see it. That's why we're all beginning to react. And so by understanding these bigger natural concepts, we can understand ourselves, what's going on around us, and then also how to create solutions that are effective and cannot be countered that easily, right? By understanding these things, we can get together, start to talk about more and more about these ideas and spread these ideas. I've referred to it in the past, the 100th Monkey Movement, something I was part of for a long time, and still, am in a way, but just I totally agree with the concept of it. Is that once an idea, enough people catch on to a behavior, then that behavior kind of accelerates throughout the population of and then more people understand this behavior naturally rather than having to learn it. That's basically the concept of the 100th monkey, right? So a good example of this, the other night we were last night actually, and the night before, we were playing games on Cool Frogs channel. And we played this one game called, it was called like a word game, right? So I can't remember the exact name of it, right? I'm trying to get it right. It's something like Spellcast or something like that. And basically what you see in that game is you have to guess this word. Someone's drawing a picture, right? And then you have to, I think this is the right one. Yeah, then you have to guess the word, right? Whatever they're drawing. So what I noticed while we were playing is, okay, so one person might get it right away. They're either they're using a strategy, or they just they happen to get lucky or something like that. But they get it right away, right? And sometimes it's two people or more. It depends on how obvious it is. But if it's really difficult, right, then what you'll see is you'll see this pattern. Like someone will get it first, and then another person, and then it'll speed up. So as people start to get the word in the game, more and more answers come in, right? So you can see it almost every time, like the speed up in the middle there. So if someone gets it right away, maybe two people, then someone else gets it and it starts to snowball, right? And then by the end, most times all people get it. But that's a good I think that's a good little mini kind of like example of like how when you're connected to a group and you're doing something like this, how information can get passed without us really even realizing it. Is it coincidence? Well, I watched it happen over and over and over and over and over again. It may just be the way it looks when it happens, but it sure does kind of it's kind of odd when you look at some of the words people were getting and some of the drawings they were using, right? So you couldn't figure it out. I would say that there was something more going on than just, maybe it was people's brains working. Maybe it was like after a certain point, everybody kind of starts to get it. More questions to ask, but I would say that there was some kind of like semblance or look of a spot, like an emergence kind of situation going where information seemingly was being passed without anybody kind of talking or saying it. And we were all coming up with these answers at the same time. So I don't know if that's the best example, but I thought that was interesting and maybe could be a type of it, if not exactly it. So anyways, well, hopefully this next one won't get us struck, but we're going to kind of go along with the intro to Emergent, and we're going to get into it. So yes, Grim, good question. So should we return to proto-fascism? Would that be an interesting debate? I don't know. I doubt it. I don't know if it'd be an interesting debate or not. Probably not. Probably be but I definitely know proto-fascism. I think what I'm talking about today is trying to get away from it. Actually trying to figure out how to not only use this information to create victories and move our side forward in terms of reforming and stopping the erosion and corrosion of society, but also to work in new creations, new structures, new systems for society. Because as I've said, you can't just beat these guys and then just do what they did. They'll be right back. It's like, you leave the essence there. Things must change in drastic ways in order to not repeat the same bad habit and not the same mistakes, right? We have to, we're going to have to redo these systems in some way. Now, for now, I'm not one of those people that say, don't vote, don't participate, don't do that. I don't think that works. I think you need to participate until you get to the point where you can affect really good advancements and optimizations. And we're going to get into why this is the best system for that, because this is the most scalable system. That is the one of spontaneous order, and we'll get into that. And we get to the spontaneous order through emergence. So that's why we're starting here with emergence. So we understand the concept, and then we can move into the practice of it and how it looks, and then how to apply it really. So let's go ahead and get to the next video. Yeah, there's one after this. It's going to be a little bit longer, and then the one on reality, and this is a very interesting one. This is kind of like a theory video for us to all watch together. Not necessarily advocating for their beliefs yet, but I would say, hey, let's take a look at it together and see what we think. So hang in there. We're got a few more of these that are going to walk us down the path, and then we're going to kind of switch over to spontaneous order, and then we're going to go into the how these things apply to reality.
Are working in tandem to form a bridge. Even though there's no leader giving orders, they all seem to know what to do. Similarly, thousands of starlings fly in unison, creating complex formations.
These are some of the
sky.
best examples out there.
Magnetic properties arise from the alignment of
As
billions
well as,
of
like,
electrons.
the skating
Intricate
rink.
Frost patterns crystallize on window panes. Hurricanes form above churning
Yeah, I hope
ocean.
so too.
And once
But,
clear highways suddenly get
you
jammed
can't
with
see it?
traffic.
Hold on. Sorry. Oh,
Something in common.
There we go.
Some
Sorry
sort
about that.
of macro property or behavior arises spontaneously from many interacting micro parts. It's a classic case of the whole being greater than the sum of its parts. The behavior
Important
of each
concept
of
right
those
there.
parts doesn't predict how they behave collectively. Some of our greatest unsolved mysteries, like how life first began
All right,
and how our
everybody keep an eye
brains
on
give
this.
rise to consciousness, could be explained by this phenomenon known as emergence.
all right.
How does complexity emerge from a simple starting point? And how do we even study that? Let's look at the formation of a crystal lattice.
Okay, so they're going to walk us down this different kind of idea. This right here, this concept of the crystal lattice, is very key in this in the talk of emergence as well, because they use this concept to explain different things. And you're going to see that our talk on last week on or last time on dimensions is going to come in real handy right here, because this is going to get into why that was an important information for us to realize, and the construction of reality and the nature of the universe around us. So here we go.
Think of molecules in a container. At high temperatures, they'll bounce around independently in a fluid or gaseous state. Poke them, and nothing happens to the system. But lower the temperature, and they form a solid. They crystallize, arranging themselves in a regular lattice. A balancing act between opposing forces maintains the distance between molecules. Now poke them. They'll try to restore the balance. The key is, the forces acting on the molecules don't change. The drop in temperature added a new condition to the system. The same
Interesting.
rules created a different effect.
Interesting.
And that's how the properties of the crystal lattice, like its rigidity, its elasticity, and its long-range order, emerge. An abrupt change in the behavior of a physical system is something we typically think of as a phase transition. In fact, that's how scientists often think about emergence.
Hey,
in
what's
more
up, TR? How
complex
you doing?
systems. Let's return to the bridge-building ants. Like the molecules in the lattice, the ants as individuals obey the same behavioral rules, no matter what they're doing. They aren't trying to build structure.
So real quick, like taking a look at this, right? So let's think about it like this. In the grand scheme of things, right? How we're all here today, right? And we all know what we're doing right now in this world, right? Some of us, like Grim and I, Jessica, we're creating content. It's purposeful content in a sense, and we're trying to just draw attention to more, if anything, more based information, and we're drawing attention to the rights and wrongs and our perceptions on it, right? So it's hard to really put that those three I just named in that in this kind of category, because you have Grim and I who do a lot of parody videos, and you have Jessica who does different types of commentary and panels and such. So but there's a lot of us out there. So people, like in the last video, we're kind of drawn to these roles, right? It reminds me of like the Ron Paul revolution, in a sense that I was drawn to the role that I got into, and that it became like this drive in me to do what I was doing that seemed almost almost out of my control. Like it was like I had to do this. Like I had to do this. There was a purpose in me that said you have to do this for the future of everyone. Like you need to do your part in this sense now. You need to do this right now. And so, it was a calling of sense, right? And so I fell into this role of online activist and guide, information guide, if you will, to help people coming out of the deep sleep of the establishment narrative and world into a whole new world where everything was wide open, not to fall into traps and stuff like that, where they would again fall back into being confined into a small space and not having the full picture, therefore being ineffective and discredited. So that was like driving me to help get Ron Paul's word out, because the philosophy of liberty needed to be heard, and the concepts that it would lead to by understanding those needed to happen. People needed to take that journey in order to see the condition they were in and the condition society was in. So there was a real drive in me, and I really could never figure it out what was going on, but I just felt like I had to see this thing through. I had to do it. I had to put the hours in. And there was a lot of other people just like me that were doing the same thing. So when you think about this whole, the ants building a bridge suddenly out of nowhere with no direction, think about your own journey and where you are today and how you got there and how you're here. A lot of it you'll see is kind of like us kind of snapping into where we fit best in this bridge to bridge the, ourselves back into the owners and guardians of reality, in a sense that, we're not going into this dark authoritarian, weird kind of moralist world, but we're trying to, bring it back to where it should be for real harmony and balance. So kind of think about that and think about how maybe we're already kind of like participating in this, right?
But when the ground drops away in front of the swarm, old rules about how close to stay to their neighbors leads to the emergence of large-scale coordinated behavior. Without that information about their neighbors, the bridge would break apart, just like how higher temperatures cause molecules to break from a solid lattice into a liquid state. Emergence means that we can find hierarchies of new laws and structures that arise out of complexity at different scales. Scientists are seeking to apply the framework of emergence to other
as above,
areas of
so below
research,
concept,
like how individual cells
stream
follow
1.
cues to move or transform when organs are developing, or how groups of neurons fire together to help you make decisions. Some researchers are even hoping to engineer such systems of their own, to build robotic systems made up of small, dumb parts that end up swarming together to perform useful tasks. Perhaps this...
Yeah, and then, hey, Graham, just to add to that, like if you look at the Josh situation recently, it was like we had that thing going on, right? And, as it became more apparent where it was heading, more people started doing things, and then jumping in to help, and then, spreading the word. So like I made that video and I put it out, and that gained a lot of momentum, brought a lot of other people into awareness, and then things just kind of went on their own, right? He still was trying to be a kook, but more and more people are aware. It got all the way up to the top, up to the top where the biggest reach was. More people became aware of it. He became completely ineffective, at least in a sense of, trying to, persuade or manipulate people into believing his bullshit. So there you have it.
Work can help us understand even deeper questions about the emergent nature of intelligence, consciousness, and life itself.
Yeah, that is cool. I've seen that before. Oh, that's it. All right. So yeah, there you have it. Real simple stuff in a sense that we're just kind of getting the idea going along, right? So we got that one done. We got the copyright one done. And okay, so now we're going to move on to we're going to say real quick. This is a real quick one. This is just basically explaining why it's important. And then we're going to go to the original. This is the one that I saw originally 14 years ago. That kind of got me turned on to the idea of what this was. And after a long periods of thinking and kind of putting it together, this is how the anti-establishment, I believe, is supposed to operate. We're supposed to operate purely on this. And if you can see that, the leadership is very broken off into tasks, right? There's no overarching leader of the anti-establishment. There never has been. There's always just been players in it, some bigger than others, but everybody kind of doing their job. Then you kind of roll that back into the other side and you look at the opposite. You see a lot of authoritarianism, a lot of pressure to join, a lot of, it's just like they're the opposite. They're the opposite of that. They want an authoritarian system, authoritarian government, very subservient population to a very select few in power that are benefiting off of them. It's very obvious now when you start to learn these concepts, what's going on. But this is how we have to understand that we operate. That's how we can be effective with our solutions and our actions that build to that, right? So when we understand, hey, we're not looking for a structure or a leader. Donald Trump isn't the leader of the anti-establishment. He's the guy that's running the operation. Get your hands on the damn national, the national power. Basically, he's the guy that for now at least, that people are looking to execute that task at the executive level, right? But he's not by no means would stand up one day and say, anti-establishment, I want you to do this or that. That's why the whole January 6th thing is so stupid. When you realize that we don't operate like that, we may have someone in charge of something or in front of something, but we expect that they are working for us, like Trump often says, I'm working for you people. They are working for us. That's the way it's supposed to be. They're supposed to be representing the larger whole, not their own smaller group or their own self-interest, right? I mean, not past the point of the interest of everybody else. They're being asked to represent and to do work for on behalf of. So anyways, let's get back over here. This is real quick. This is also a good lesson in history. I mean, a good lesson in aging as well. So watch this. I'll show you something here real quick. Let's see. All right, let's go.
Dave, the issue of emergence.
I love this dude's his 80s metal haircut, dude. He's like, screw it, dude. I play in a band. I don't care.
Find ways we can approach what is existence about. And we used to think that there's this reduction from biology has to be explained in terms of chemistry and physics and all the way down. And yet emergence is something that is become important in being able to understand how these different levels work. How does a philosopher see emergence?
Well, emergence has become one of the big buzzwords, I guess, in science and philosophy in the last couple of decades. Something new emerges from something more fundamental. So a life emerges from processing biological processes and matter. Consciousness emerges from the brain. I think, though, that this term emergence really covers a multitude of sins. And you need to really, distinguish some quite different.
This guy's like really into it. He's been doing this for a long time. He still does. This is like 7 years ago, I think. And so he's basically, he's really knee deep in it. We're kind of like just coming in at a high level and we're kind of learning the details as we go. So, hey, Jay-Z, how you doing, man? Yeah, you are. You're cool enough to be here. Hang out. Lots of cool stuff. Lots of cool people. We got so anyways, he's into the more, we're going to learn about the different types of emergence and what the big kind of like back and forth is on it as we go, just for our own knowledge. It doesn't really apply to the bigger concept as much, but just to understand the difference between like strong and weak emergence and what those mean. And when people are talking about it, what they, as you dive in, if you dive in on your own and do some more education, what they're talking about, you'll know what they mean, right? There's different approaches. There's a holistic approach. There's a reductionist approach. There's all kinds of things we're going to learn about this. So hang tight. Some of these terms will be explained.
Different things that can go on when you talk about emergence. There's what we might call weak emergence, which is when you've got some complicated processing in matter, maybe some complicated dynamics among a bunch of cells, and you get a complex pattern in that matter that you wouldn't have expected. And phenomena emerge like waves on the water. Somehow from these water molecules all jostling around, you get these waves, which you can do. They come into the shore, you can surf on them and so on. That's emergence, but it's not something fundamentally new. If you knew about the fundamental structure of all the water molecules.
Oh, geez. I love when that happens. Yeah, okay, so he's just basically giving us the idea why this is important to understand. There's a part here at the end.
You could ultimately predict there are going to be these waves. So that's
Why does it do that? Yes. Oh, come on, dude. Sometimes this helps. I don't know why.
Dave, the issue.
Treatment in our theories, maybe as a fundamental element of the world.
Now, if I were a philosopher who did not agree with your arguments, and I wanted to be particularly antagonistic to you, I would take what you just said about biology being a weakly emergent property, that if we knew enough about the
consciousness is the only strong emergence we know of,
and go back, 100 years and say, if we were sitting here 100 years ago, people would have said the same thing about biology, that you needed a vital force, because you can have chemical predictions, but once you have life and replication reacting to the environment in life's special way, it's impossible to predict from mechanical movement of forces and particles. So we need a vitalistic force. But now, after we learned about DNA and everything, we don't need a vitalistic force. So now we've gone up one level to consciousness. But at some point, the same thing that happened to vitalism will happen to consciousness.
It's tempting to think that the case of consciousness is analogous to the case of life, and consciousness will eventually go the same way as the vital spirit. But I think that's fundamentally wrong. The reason is, in the case of life, the phenomena that needed explaining were all ultimately behavioral and functional phenomena. How is it that living systems can do these amazing things? Grow, metabolize, reproduce. These were all questions about functions and mechanisms to perform them. Now, if you were a vitalist,
see what I mean about learning how to.
Reasonable to think that it wasn't obvious that physical mechanisms could do these jobs. So therefore, you postulate the vital spirit to perform these objective functions. Turns out DNA could do it. The moment that happened, vitalism melts away. In the case of consciousness, though, it's quite different. We're not trying to explain some objective function that we can do. Let's concede. Take all the objective functions in the vicinity of consciousness, the behaviors. I can point to you. I can talk about what's going on. I can integrate information and so on. I can perceive a stimulus. Say we can explain all of those functions, the things I do, with underlying neural mechanisms. There's this further question. Why is all that functioning accompanied by subjective experience? So all the discoveries you like about neuroscience and the mechanisms are always going to leave this further question of consciousness.
Philosophers have used an interesting thought experiment. Take my 100 billion neurons, and I'll give them to you freely, and start replacing each one by one with a.
This is interesting right here. This is really interesting. When you're talking about like the human brain, right? This guy breaks a great point right here about how, we have ideas, don't we? We have ideas, and that's how things work. He's getting ready to blow your mind here in a second. I'm not going to blow the surprise, but I'll talk about it afterwards. But the silicon brains, you kind of get the idea.
Very sophisticated. Maybe it's going to be 1,000 years before you can do that. So run the experiment on me and tell me what it means.
Okay, so let's take your brain, and there's 100 billion neurons, and let's replace your neurons one by one till we get 100 billion bits of silicon. Now, interesting question. Is a silicon brain conscious? You might think only neurons can be conscious. Silicon can't be conscious. But now I think, what's going to happen when we get halfway through?
Come on, dude.
This replacement. Is your consciousness gradually going to fade out? Are you going to be sort of halfway along this series and kind of queasy, maybe you're kind of drunk? I don't know, you're fading off into oblivion, but you're still walking and talking in exactly the same way?
So I would look.
So check that out. Yeah. So check it out. What they're saying is, what if you replace every neuron in your brain of the silicon part, like one by one, just like one by one? What would happen? So basically, it's like, we're just replacing something that say it's damaged or something. You want to replace it with silicon. It would still act as a transmitter, right? So are we trying to say that consciousness is within the neuron itself? And it's the neurons themselves working together that's consciousness? Or are we saying that it's the system itself and that the parts don't matter? It's just the system and the way it's built out, like a network. I think that's the point he's trying to make. But the big fundamental question is that if you did that at some point, if what neurons were responsible for consciousness, would the person you are start to fade away and you just become an imprint of that person? Hey, thanks, T-Rex. How you doing? Yeah, let me read that. Super chat. Thank you for the 999, TR. I appreciate it. He says, I like Dr. Peterson's think ideas have us. We don't have ideas. That is very true. Actually, yeah, we talked about that last time too, as well. That where do ideas come from? They're just out of the ether. They outlast us. They're bulletproof. They're ageless or timeless. These ideas carry on through people and actions, sometimes when they don't even know it. They seem to have a bigger deal than we give them credit for sure. Absolutely. And thank you for the $10. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Yeah. So this guy is, he's asking the question, what would happen at this point, right? So you start to fade out, or do you continue on with this new silicon brain? This is really interesting stuff. And go. Are you with me, Dave?
Look as if I'm behaving exactly as like I am now, but inside I'd be starting to fade.
By hypothesis, we're going to say the silicon chips are
Thank you,
wired
Jay-Z.
up in exactly the same way that your neurons are wired up, and they're wired up to your behavior the same way. So by hypothesis, your behavior will be exactly the same. If someone thinks that silicon can't support consciousness, they have to say that somewhere along the way, either your consciousness suddenly disappears, just weeks out, or they have to say it fades out gradually, and somewhere along the way, your half consciousness, you're woozy, your experience is all faded, but you're behaving just the same. That's a bizarre and radical dissociation. I think this gives us good reason to believe that what really matters to consciousness is not neurons, silicon, the meat that it's made of. What really matters is the organization, the dynamics of the underlying structures.
And that is the strong emergence?
I think that consciousness strongly emerges from the organization of the brain. I mean, you could believe that what matters is the organization and not go for strong emergence. You could think that maybe it weakly emerges or there's not very much to consciousness. But I think if you're looking for a basis from which consciousness emerges in the brain, it's the patterns, the organization, the information, not the specific structure, neurons versus silicon versus gray goo.
How?
I have to agree with that. I mean, I can't think of any other concept that. Okay, we'll see a second. I can't think of any reason, any other way that's going to work, right? When I think about like building out architectures for software platforms, right? It's all logical workflows. It's all core logic, and it's all these parts that have to work together with that system in place. Like if anything isn't, architected and implemented right, then you have errors and you have problems and things get out of sync and it all falls apart. That's kind of the same concept here. It doesn't matter what software platform you use. If you build a strong system inside of it, it's going to work the way it's supposed to work and you're going to get results from it. And that seems to be just the base structure for this. And for consciousness, I can see where people are going with this in the world a little bit better by understanding this. So here's some ideas too. Let's see. Yeah. So, the whole humanist thing where they want to transfer their consciousness into machines, it does seem like it's really possible, right? It does. But here's the thing. You can do that, right? And the system works for consciousness. But what happens when you disconnect the sensory adaptations? What happens when you disconnect that from consciousness? I think that makes a fundamental change because we can imagine like living on in a computer in an imaginary sense, right? But what happens when you don't feel your legs in your body and you don't have to breathe, and you don't have to sleep, you don't have to eat, and you don't have to do the things that make us, feel human, to feel the world around us. somebody asked me one time what the meaning of life was, and a long time ago, my immediate response was to feel. And it's just basically, and she thought that was really cool, but honestly, that's the way I see it, because like, why else would you be in here in a physical sensory world, if not to feel it and understand it? I don't see there's much point past that. So take away the feeling, and it's not really the same, is it? So you take away the brain and the body, you can maybe you can simulate it, and that makes them feel real. But when you don't feel yourself, you just go into some kind of weird place. Well, that can't be the same kind of reality. So what does that start to do to people? What does that start to do to the world? Who knows, man? I would imagine the lack of humanity and empathy that those people would then have would be seriously dangerous. But we'll finish this up here.
This concept of emergence, which, as you've said, has been.
Well, we replace ourselves, but we still have the same structure, DNA, and everything. When you're talking about, moving into a PC. A little different. Why does it get so laggy when I try to do this? I don't understand. My system isn't really this slow ever, except when I try to stream. I mean, not even my system, my connection. Come on, Dave. Sometimes if I do this, it helps.
Decades. Is that a kind of a
dude? Man, this really makes streaming hard when you want to use something, and it keeps stalling on you.
So I would look as if I'm behaving exactly as like I am now, but inside I'd be.
Oh man. All right, let's keep this going for a second. I just want to show you something real quick. I thought it was interesting. Oh, here you go.
By hypothesis, we're going to say the silicon chips are wired up in exactly the same way that your neurons are wired up, and they're wired up to your behavior the same way. So by hypothesis, your behavior will be exactly the same. If someone thinks that silicon can't support consciousness, they have to say that somewhere along the way, either your consciousness suddenly disappears, just weeks out, or they have to say it fades out gradually, and somewhere along the way, your half consciousness, you're woozy, your experience is all faded, but you're behaving just the same. That's a bizarre and radical dissociation. I think this gives us good reason to believe that if what really matters to consciousness is not neurons, silicon, the meat that it's made of, what really matters is the organization, the dynamics of the underlying structures.
And that is the strong emergence?
I think that consciousness strongly emerges from the organization of the brain. I mean, you could believe that what matters is the organization and not go for strong emergence. You could think that maybe it weakly emerges, or there's not very much to consciousness.
Okay, I'm done with this. That's about as much patience as I have for stupid videos that stop in weird places, and then they'll start again for no reason. But anyways, yeah. So take a look at this guy, right? This was 7 years ago. Yeah, 7 years ago. This is him today. This is him 3 years ago. Just real quick. I won't play. This isn't something to play. It's just I wanted you to I want to show you the ravages of age here. Oh my God, dude. Why is it doing this? Okay, if anybody knows something I could do technically better to get this to work, better equipment or something. I mean, I got the fastest line. I'm going direct in, and this shouldn't be happening at all. It never happens. So this is really not fun right now. So okay, we'll go on to the next one. Hopefully it was just that video, but I doubt it. Yeah, right. It's not. No, I got the. This is called Gen X top of the line network, dude. I got like that. I got a mesh network here. I got, dude, I got it all. I got it all, man. I got the fastest AT&T connection you can have. I'm going direct in from my router. I got a mesh network for all the other stuff I have in my house. I mean, that's why it's upsetting me. Like if I just had it plugged into a freaking the cheapest cable modem in the world, and it was doing this, I would expect it. I'd be like, I got to do better than this. But I'm doing my best, and I'm getting my butt kicked. So yeah, that kind of makes me mad. But anyways, we'll move on. I can still talk through all this stuff, but anyways, this is the one I saw originally that really kicked me off into thinking. I just wanted to play it because I think it still has some of the best kind of concepts to it, and that are often imitated for sure.
The good guy replaces the bad president, and he just calls in an accountant, and they sit down and balance.
14 years ago. 14 years ago. Maybe I shouldn't talk on it. Is that what it is? 13 years ago.
And get everybody a job.
I forgot that I was hired to do a job for you.
Try bumping down. What is that? Try bumping down the DPI. Okay, where do I do that at? Is it in the settings?
If the president were a good man, he'd get everybody a job. I saw it in the movie.
Create more and better jobs
that pay well and can't be outsourced.
But presidents don't create jobs. Entrepreneurs do, often without any government involvement, without politicians ordering anyone about. In fact, most of life works best when you are in charge. Here's a thought experiment. Consider a skating rink.
Imagine telling someone who'd never been to a skating rink that you were going to let people strap blades to their feet and then let all of them, old people, young people, good skaters, bad skaters, speed around a rink. They'd say, no, you can't do that. It would be a catastrophe. You need to plan this.
Very interesting. I mean, it's just like there's like seems to be some kind of timing to it. Maybe not. Let me see. Like that's pretty low for DPI. I don't know what ambient.
You need to direct them. Be careful.
Maybe it's this thing that hey, how's it going? Yeah, right. I know. I'm gonna try to put my head through a wall and see if that helps. Anarchy is not chaos. Anarchy is like government control. If society is emergent, then all we have in anarchy. Governments are a means by which contracts between individuals are enforced. Yeah, that's exactly right. In a sense that
I better do that.
Slow down over there. Turn right. Turn left.
So basically, he's given instructions to and he's showing how when someone takes over, starts telling people what to do, and in a situation where they could naturally figure it out, it goes to shit, right? So, God bless America. I'm going to minimize this.
No backward skating.
Something's wrong.
So, I've just watched all these for all the way through earlier and no problem.
It's not working.
It's just streaming.
More people to follow.
You speak.
Okay, so then they bring in Brian Botano, right? Of course, we all saw that coming. I really don't get it. All right. Sorry about this. I'm sure everybody's used to dealing with this by now, but I don't get it because it should be fine.
You don't hold hands. Increase your speed twice as fast as you're going.
Even the Olympian, with his vastly greater knowledge, can't make the skating better by being a boss.
You in the black right there. Please move to the outer edge along the rail.
Nobody was listening to him.
I know nobody was listening because they don't want to. I mean, they want to do their own thing.
Yeah, it kind of ruins the fun of it. Like people bossing you around. I don't want to do it then if someone's telling me what to do.
It's not going to be fun.
It's a natural state, right?
What's the point of coming in?
Kids, don't go too fast.
Much of life would be a drag if a leader directed everything. And in fact, most of our lives are self-directed. Economists call it spontaneous
I turned it
order.
off.
On the rink, skaters' self-interests coincide. They want to be free, but not crash. We see spontaneous order in nature, schools of fish moving together, an ant colony, a flock of birds.
The flock of starlings is self-organized. There's no leader, there's no communication. The Blue Angels can do pre-choreographed stuff, but they couldn't chase a plane with the precision that a flock of birds can do it.
Economist Russ Roberts points out that spontaneous order, not government, guides most of life. We just don't think about it.
We don't notice that there are many things in our life.
That still looks like Virginia Beach. That like before they extended the beach out. Kind of looks like Virginia Beach a little bit. Beach seems small though. Like that's Virginia Beach, man. I know it. That's where I'm from. It's pretty obvious. Okay, so they talk about this like it's going on all around us. We just don't notice it. So now that you know the idea of this, right? When you're walking through a crowd, when you're you'll start to see it kind of just spring up. It's kind of cool.
Notice that there are many, many things in our life that work beautifully and smoothly as if they were organized, but without an organizer.
Government sets some rules, but the buying and selling, the designing and inventing, creating, building, dancing are done by people who every second make their own decisions. It's the spontaneous order.
A lot of aspects of our life are like that. We take them for granted.
Just as we take a skating rink for granted.
Some people would say the skating rink works because it's small. But when it's a big place like America, you need planning.
The more complex the problem, the more planning you need. But it's not planning at the top. It's planning from the bottom up.
That's how we got language.
기쁨의 겨워. Gentili telespettatori, buongiorno.
It's varied and useful and beautiful.
Au cœur de la crise, un document réalisé.
But people once said we need a better universal language, Esperanto. William Shatner then made this movie in Esperanto. But centrally planned language died as quickly as the movie. Communism lasted longer, but its central planning doomed it because planners never could end.
Doomed it in practice. People still are trying to philosophically, sorry for the image size there, guys. Still philosophically trying to implement it, and they're still basically living through the idea. And that's the whole point of how ideas are so powerful. It's like, even though it's been this thing happened called the USSR, and it's very much in history how it turned out, people still believe that there's a way to make it work. It's the belief system of this ideology that has them by the balls and is not letting go. So
Anticipate the myriad wants of different people. There were constant shortages. Soviets waited in line an average 2 hours every day. Sometimes there were riots. And yet, all this election season, the political class acts as if they must direct life.
remember back when we didn't have freedom, we didn't have a real choice in elections? You guys remember that? You guys remember that? Yeah, it wasn't too long ago, was it? Isn't it nice to have we actually have a real choice in elections right now? When you have this neocon walking around acting like he's something that he's not. Yeah.
And when there are problems, it must be politicians who solve them.
Barack Obama can give us back our freedom.
Yeah, that's some mind control right there. So yeah, so you see, it was an older one, right? But yeah, 13 years ago, I got the idea from this to really learn about this stuff because I thought it was really neat. You know, I never thought about why we just suddenly bust into a groove with each other the way that we do, and that there's a bigger natural concept to that. But the bigger natural concept tells us a lot about the nature of the world and reality itself, right? And by learning that, we can learn how to solve problems together and how society, to organize and structure a better society for ourselves. This is really the natural way to do it, and that's really what our side or people like us really want. We seek that as the way things should be, and that people that want artificial order or they want to have authoritarian order over everything are the disruptors and the destabilizers of the system. So when we kind of focus in on what the real battle is and who the real players are in the battle, we can see that there's this underlying theme of freedom and authoritarianism, good and evil, and basically artificial order versus spontaneous order, right? Things that are planned, things that happen, just happen because they need to happen or because they're supposed to happen. Okay, so this next one is, I think, a little bit more of a deeper dive on this. It kind of goes into a little bit more detail, but I did want to show you where it all started for me. So the spontaneous order, that was the first thing I'd ever seen on it. And when I did see it, I started learning about it and started thinking of how we could apply this to make a better world, right?
Order emerges when organisms...
Oh, geez, okay. Give it a second. It looks like it's all the way out to here, doesn't it? All right. Has been sitting there for a while. Maybe that's what it is.
Order emerges when organisms...
Oh my God, dude. It doesn't make any sense. I have so much bandwidth. It's almost like it's doing it on purpose. Is it the playlist? I know it's not though. All right, so we can lower this even more. How bad is it going to get?
Order emerges when organisms interact with each other.
This is stupid. What the? It must be my system or something because I don't see other people having this issue.
When organisms interact with each other to create new properties by bringing themselves into association. Protons, neutrons, and electrons come together to form atoms. Atoms.
Oh, was it? Okay, thanks, ID Crisis. Appreciate it.
Molecules interact with each other to form cells. Single cells join together to form multicellular colonies. Some cells do the digesting. Others become responsible for movement. And working together, they form tissues. And tissues combine to evolve into multicellular organisms like a full-fledged nervous system. And this is all being done through the behavior of individual cells. As individuals, moving is one living organism. So you have to ask yourself, what is a living organism? A living organism is a system of intercommunication of extreme complexity. Try to define what you are. When you go into it, you suddenly realize that when you take off your skin and look underneath, you're a complex system of tubes and fibers beautifully patterned. And when you look at this under a microscope, all these crazy little creatures running around inside of us don't look like people, but they would seem like people if you got used to them or if you got to know them. Because inside of us, they're having all their problems. They've got all sorts of fights going on, collaborations, conspiracies, and so on. But if they weren't doing that, we wouldn't be healthy. If the various corpuscles and cells in our bloodstream weren't fighting each other, we would drop dead. And that's why battles at one level of being can bring overall peace and health at another level. People are always going to have problems. People are always going to bump heads, regardless of what type of system we live under. But it's up to us to understand this and to turn these bumps into the learning process. Take any highly organized system of life, for example. Take the way a garden exists. It's full of, in a sense, competitive species, snails and thrushes and various insects in opposition to each other. And because their fights keep going on, the life of the garden as a whole is maintained.
Sorry, that's an interesting point right there. When I heard that, it jumped out at me. Because I'm thinking, I've always thought about this in a sense, like I've always applied this to my thinking and tried to include it and solve for it in a sense that is the conflict amongst us necessary? Does it have to happen? Does this battle have to happen? Is this constant back and forth ebb and flow between good, evil, right, wrong, dark, light? Is this just the way it is? Or is the point of this to figure it out? That's a big old question right there. Because that really would determine how you would live your life and which direction you'd go with it, wouldn't it? If it was, you knew the purpose of life was to overcome evil, darkness, or succumb to it, right? Or overtake the light, then you would operate differently. If you knew that it wasn't, and it was basically just whatever, right? You would operate differently too. So some of the philosophies about life and existence and stuff will go one direction or another, purpose driven or no purpose at all, right? Maybe it's a stop along the way. Maybe there's more ways to think about it than those two. But when he said that, that the fight going on in the ecosystems here help make the ecosystem happen. That's a very interesting point.
But you can't say that snails in this garden shouldn't be allowed because you want the lettuces to thrive. Because if there aren't any snails, the birds won't come around because the birds like the snails. And the birds do all kinds of things for your garden, like supplying it with manure and so on. So the price of having birds is snails that eat your lettuces.
Sure, it's all perception. But within perception there's truth, and there's some things we can definitely learn, and some things tend to carry over. Like again, we're talking about the ideas, right? Ideas are bulletproof and timeless, and I guess they have more bandwidth than YouTube or me. But all right, dude. I apologize for
Order
the
emerges
interruptions.
when organisms interact with each other to
Sorry,
create.
I'll get back to here.
In the same way, people are all different. Yet at the same time, people are all interrelated and indispensable to each other, like the organs in our body. For example, you can argue that the stomach is fundamental. Eating is the big thing, and therefore we grew brains as extensions of the stomach to get it more food, to say the brain is the servant of the stomach. But you can argue equally that the brain is primary and that it has all these thinking games to play and it needs a stomach as an appendage to supply it with energy. Or you can argue that the sex organs are primary and they need the brain and the stomach to keep the ecstasy going to continue reproducing. But then the brain and the stomach can equally argue that they wouldn't find it worthwhile unless they had the sex organ appendage to give them solace. The truth of the matter is that nobody comes first. Nobody pushes the other around. You don't find brains without stomachs and sex organs. They all go together. And this is the fallacy of empire, rulers, masters.
So when you think about it like this, it really goes into, oh yeah, hey, I didn't see you guys there. Sorry to take care of something. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the stream. Hey, Jessica, how you doing?
Hello, how's it going?
Great. All right, and also, I haven't got his theme. I haven't got his new theme ready yet, so we have to go with the old one. Welcome, Cool Frog. I got to get this straight, don't I?
Love it.
How y'all doing?
Hi, Crisis.
There's everybody. Hello. I look like a giant. There we go.
I just got home from dinner with family. My goddaughter turned 17 today. I feel.
Oh wow.
I'll be right back.
Okay. Wow.
Hell.
He had to get on a streaming shirt. That's congrats. That's awesome. I don't have any godchildren. I did try to have one for.
So.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, I mean, when my child was younger, we had some, but I figured once he got to a certain age, that wasn't necessary anymore. You know, sometimes it seems like a good idea at the time, but later on, it's like, yeah, I don't know if now at this point I'd want him hanging out with those people, but at the time it seemed like a good idea. Cool. Yeah. So you've been watching?
I've been like hopping in and out because I've been taking care of some things at my house. I barely just sat down.
Awesome. Yeah. See everybody saying, hey. My mother had
10 children. That's funny.
All right. Yeah. Yeah. So basically, you know, I think you've probably seen the concept of this, what we're talking about. So basically, what are your thoughts on it so far? Do you have any yet, or what do you think?
I don't know yet. Let's keep watching and.
Okay. Here we go.
Leaders. No one's primary. Men should not rule over other men. People should be working together the same way that all the organs
like I voted for Biden
body move together. All the cells of your brain cooperate. You don't have to force them into association. You don't have to make your brain cells cooperate. You don't have to tell them to. You don't have to arrange a treaty of some kind. They just do so. And these networks of neurons create structured thoughts beyond what any individual neuron could possibly direct or conduct or orchestrate. Just look at the birds. You notice how when birds suddenly turn in the air, they turn as if they were all one bird. But when they land on the sand, they become individuals, running around independently. Although these birds control themselves, there exists a set of rules from within for the interaction with each other and with the environment. It's the same thing with schools of fish. We find a complex order within fish populations. They all cooperate without a leader. There's no single brain at the top giving orders down. There's no conductor. There's no director. There's no master controlling the functions of these fish.
Oh, sorry.
They're self-organized. So order does not require central coordination. People can spontaneously organize themselves to create a type of self-organization structure that no individual can intend, comprehend, or perceive, much less coordinate. And this is done.
There you go. So that's kind of like the bigger idea there. And what he just said is that, you know, in a sense that's what's going on around us right now. And I believe that's the way to work in this current situation and on this side of things. Like, well, the other side just waits to be commanded to do stuff and fall in line and be given their ideas and their actions and their likes and their dislikes. We are not like that. We're the opposite. We feed off each other. We feed off ourselves, and we add value to things. We bring value to things. Where they participate to take value away and to gain power. It's like if you really start breaking things down and defining the teams here, you can see a real distinction between who we are, who you are, and who they are, right? Yeah. Oh, cool. AJ, I'm Gen X too. So it's cool for us back.
There's a couple of us that are Gen X, for sure.
We were talking about how it is the best generation last night.
It totally.
You love the internet.
Free association resulting in spontaneous arrangements, understanding and finding simplicity in complexity. That's order.
There you have it. Okay, so I'm glad that one worked out. Now I've turned everything off in the house, so hopefully the rest of the stuff was going to work. This is going to go into it a little bit longer. I like the way this guy put things, because now we're kind of moving it into the solution, kind of like how we can apply it range here. And then we're going to get, after this part, we're going to get into the big theory video. This is pretty much a longer one. And this is going to be the kind of fun thinking one. We stop, we'll ask a lot of questions, we'll do stuff like that. So we'll get through here, this one, and you guys should have a really good idea what's going on after this. This is a song that I really like.
And this next series of lectures are going to be on spontaneous order. I've really taken a lot of time on spontaneous order because I think it's critical for a lot of different reasons. So hopefully you'll like this and see where it fits into what we're talking about. So again, the learning objective: what should be the community's role in managing commerce in general and the internet in specific? So this is our net neutrality question: is should the government be involved in managing the internet?
It's not really what we're going to go over.
And then the question becomes, how does spontaneous order then help us answer these questions? Spontaneous order is similar to the invisible hand I talked about earlier, but not exactly. F.A. Hayek, you can see why he's one of my favorite people. Of all the 20th century theorists of spontaneous order, F.A. Hayek has contributed most to the intellectual reproduction of Adam Smith's vision of a self-correcting social order which requires little direction or control. So again, this is a recurring theme, the idea that conservatives and libertarians believe that you don't need a lot of government involved in managing the economy or managing social order. And Adam Smith talked about it in terms of the invisible hand, and Frederick Hayek talks about it in terms of spontaneous order. One of Hayek's most famous ideas is that order can emerge as a result of particular individuals acting on local knowledge. He believed that economic and political order need not be designed and implemented by central planning. And this is an important point, and because I'm going to make a distinction later about difference between economic and legal order. And
I actually just watched The Karate Kid 2 nights ago with my son. It's the first time he'd seen it. He really liked it.
Even change this slide as I move forward. For my lecture on central planning, Hayek believed that our social structures are so complex and function on so much dispersed, confused, and unknown information that no central authority could harness the details required to design them to be optimally effective. Okay,
designed to fail.
This is a recurring theme. Hopefully it makes sense. I think what's written there makes perfect sense, and even go back to my lectures on knowledge and information to see how I got to this point. Hayek believed that in a free society, individuals can optimally cooperate with each other without anyone telling them how to optimally cooperate, thanks to their individual choices they make based on their specific context, thus spontaneous order. So here's an example of people walking on the street. Notice they don't bump into each other. And here you're going to see a woman in a baby carriage right there. And notice that people walk around her. Nobody bumps into her. people seem to have spontaneous order. They can move through this street without anybody telling. The government is not telling them where to go and who to move. Here comes this big guy here walking down the street, sort of just sauntering, adjusting his pants, and he's not bumping into anybody, and people are walking around them. This is spontaneous order. Let me give you another example of spontaneous order of cars.
Well, look at this.
Here's another example of spontaneous
crazy.
order: uncontrolled intersection.
Uncontrolled intersection. Could you guys like to drive through an uncontrolled intersection?
No.
What do you think? No, I wouldn't either, but it goes on for a while and nobody gets in a wreck, but it does look sketchy, man.
Section.
That's literally how it is in the Middle East
People are
too.
managing to go through that without crashing into each other. Of course, the question is, from a traffic engineering standpoint, is this most optimal for the traffic flow? Notice that cars have to stop. If you had every intersection had to have this, would that be effective, or does it make sense for the major
people trying to run across
have
the street?
Traffic flowing with traffic lights and rights of way? Is that better? So this is the critical aspect.
Do we know where that is?
Standpoint.
I don't know. Chad, anybody? It definitely doesn't look like America.
No.
Because like I know in the Middle East they have stuff like that. Like my brother was there about a month ago. He was saying how the roads are over there, but the drivers are so much better than what we have here in America. He's like, there's less accidents, but there's also less traffic control over there. And I'm just like, what?
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? You would think that everybody would try to get some kind of safety things in place, but how many people blow through red lights and kill somebody and T-bone them in an intersection every day in America?
All the time.
Yeah, I mean constantly. The
T3 saying Egypt maybe. Yeah, it could be Egypt.
Kind of, yeah. I've been to Egypt, actually been there, but we didn't drive around much. We got on a boatel and went down the Nile, or up the Nile, I should say.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, that was fun. I was 20 years old, so I was raised in hell. But see how they come all the way out here. They come all the way out to the middle of the intersection. Look at that. Look at that little gap.
Or is some constructed order. Notice here that here, a bunch of stoppage here.
So like in between pedestrians.
Right? That's crazy, isn't it?
Under central planning, a farmer is told how much to plant. Under spontaneous order, the farmer decides how much to plant on their own. The farmer knows more about their particular situation than anybody else. But what is the problem being solved here? Is the problem determining how much a particular farmer should plant, or is the problem determining the optimum planting for a community? And the question is there a difference? What if the optimum for the farmer is not optimum for the community? Going back to either one of those examples, the walking in the street or the driving, what if somebody, had to get somewhere fast and he was just or she was just going to barge through without worrying about anybody else? The key challenge for me is understanding how to integrate spontaneous order into economic system is dealing with bad actors.
There you go. The worst common denominator factor is what I call this, because of the existence of bad actors and the spontaneous order or systems that are can operate like that. Then fall under this control factor. Then it has to be more artificial order, right? So to somehow accommodate and deal with the least common denominator, the worst common denominator in the bad actors.
If we follow Adam Smith's invisible hand, then ultimately and in the aggregate, individuals acting on their own will do what is optimum for the economic system. But that requires that all.
What would you guys do if you had an invisible hand? What would you do with your invisible hand, Cool Frog?
I don't want to say.
You couldn't wave to people; no one would see it.
It depends. Is it a third hand or is it one of the two?
I don't know. I've never seen it. It's invisible. I'm guessing.
For me to know and you to figure it out. Oh.
Yeah. What does it feel like? Where's that coming from? I can't think of anything good to do with an invisible
Okay,
hand.
if I had an invisible hand, I would probably.
The one that T3 said. That one.
You know, I probably shouldn't. Sleazy. Okay, if I had an invisible hand, I would slap Sleazy.
He wouldn't know where it came from. All right. You guys can let us know in the chat what you would do with your invisible hand.
All individuals are good actors. One bad actor, in my opinion, can skew the outcome away from the optimum. So again, if we go back to either the walking or the traffic situation I showed, that all works fine if everybody is nice. But what if you have a bad actor who doesn't really act the way everybody's supposed to act? Spontaneous order is very attractive to limited government adherence because it provides a way to economic equilibrium without the government mandating rules.
He just doesn't see this floating booger come out of his nose and into his mouth.
But I have a huge problem with this. For my lecture on definitions, I define government as the process by which a community's will is implemented. This means that there are a lot of different levels of government: family, community, city, state, federal. So in the next lecture, I'm going to expand this a little more
All right.
about spontaneous.
Thank you. All right. So yeah, that's just a little bit of the economic side of it. But I think he made a good point with the factor in there, right? It works great until there's a bad actor, right? And so that's what we contend with. So what happens when you get a bunch of bad actors together? Then you got a serious problem. One thing I don't think a lot of people think past that just want to join the system or go with the establishment or do the easy thing is like how it would be if they won, right? How their life would really be, what would really happen to them, and is it better or worse than what they have today? I think 9 out of 10 cases it's going to be really worse. What do you guys think? What do you guys think? You guys.
Sorry, I zoned out for a second.
Oh, no worries.
What was the question?
Well, I was just saying that, most people that kind of join our side with the establishment and just want authoritarian order, people telling other people what to do, holding them down, thinking that's going to be better for them, how their reality is really going to turn out in the end and say if they get their way, right? They beat all the people who want freedom and liberty. And they think what's the reality going to be like at the end of that?
I mean, isn't that kind of what's happening right now?
Oh yeah. It's the bad actor overflow, right? So there's so many bad actors in the system that it's becoming authoritarian. And that's the demoralization process, right? You demoralize them. The system becomes corrupt. It becomes destabilized. Then you have a need for more authority, less freedoms, less liberties. And it kind of just goes in that direction because the more people that are becoming part of the lowest common denominator, the more authoritarian measures you need, right?
Yeah.
I can't really tell what that is, dude. It's sent to me on Discord, Graham.
Yeah. I'll put it in the private chat.
Okay, you know what it is?
Yeah.
Comments. All right.
Copy.
How come I can't see
it? I just put it in the private chat on StreamYard.
Oh. Okay. Oh, there it is. All right. Copy. There we go.
In this video, we're going to start exploring conflict between creatures. To try to build some understanding here, we're
okay. I think that'll fit in after the next one. This one is a little long and it can be a little quirky, but this is really interesting. I think it's one of the more thought-provoking ones. So now that you have your updated knowledge on immersion and emergence and spontaneous order. So let's put that to work real quick with this video. It's interesting in a sense that it'll take you in a certain direction with things, and this is actually funny because I thought of this when I was watching this. I thought, dude, this is the video that Joe Neerman has been looking for. I mean, seriously, when you guys watch this, you'll see what I'm talking about. They're not the biggest fans of Einstein in this video, but they make some good points, and they actually have information that would help his argument. So I almost invited them on just to say, hey, you want to come watch this with me because you're gonna. I don't know him well enough though, but you're gonna like what these people, how they approach things, because they kind of just got your little philosophy. They kind of just helped you out a little bit here. I don't think they didn't do it the whole 9 yards for him, but they did help him out a lot. So you'll see what I'm talking about here. Let's hope this plays without any issues.
I will tell you
Share your screen.
about the universe.
Yeah, thank you.
What it is, how it came to be, what its building blocks are. I want to tell you how the future creates the past, which then creates the future.
But first, I want to tell you about crystals. You might be surprised to know that a crystal isn't an expensive piece of glass.
Here's where the dimensions that we watched, learning about the dimensions, refreshing on the dimensions. Here's where it's really going to come into play right here. You're going to feel like you're really learning something on this channel when you get to this part, right? If you got it last time.
Or a chandelier in some fancy dining room. The word crystal simply means a pattern that is periodic.
Look at this checkerboard pattern. See how it continues to spread out infinitely in each direction? That means it's a periodic pattern. So that's a two-dimensional crystal. This
Hi, Laura.
is another two-dimensional crystal. And this is another. You can also have three-dimensional crystals.
By the way, this 3D glass is called crystal because its atoms are actually arranged in a crystalline pattern. So, see how I'm projecting this 3-dimensional crystal to a 2-dimensional image on the sand? See how the 2D projection looks distorted because of the angle of the projection? That 2D image also has a pattern, but it isn't periodic. So, it's not a crystal. But there's a deep connection between the 2D object on the sand and the 3D mother crystal. This distorted 2D pattern is called a quasi-crystal. A quasi-crystal in a certain dimension, in this case 2D, is a projection of a crystal in a higher dimension, in this case 3D. A group of physicists in Los Angeles is working on a new physics theory where a particular 8D crystal, yep, that's right, an 8-dimensional crystal.
See, you know what that is, right? You know what the 8D is, right? You know that 8D is a double up of 4, right? So the fourth dimension is just the eighth dimension is the fourth dimension twice, doubled up, in a sense that it doubles the abilities, right? So you're just basically taking everything you can do in the fourth dimension and you're doubling it.
Is projected to 4D at a very particular angle, which forms a 4D quasi-crystal. And from this 4D quasi-crystal, they derive a 3D quasi-crystal.
So that's interesting, isn't it? So what they're saying is that you can bring things from other dimensions into the 3D dimension, third dimension. You can pull them back, if you will. So projecting an 8D crystal, you can scale it down to a 4D crystal and then a 3D crystal by, I guess, projecting its shadow. It said. I'm not quite sure the ins and outs of how they did that. I think that's pretty much what they were saying. But yeah, you can just, I guess you divide by 2, right?
Which they believe is the fundamental substructure of all of reality. This 3D quasi-crystal has a fundamental building block, a tetrahedron, which is a 3-dimensional equilateral triangle. The size of each edge on this shape is the smallest possible length that can exist. This is called the Planck length. It's 10 to the 35 times smaller than a meter. So you know how your TV screen is broken down into building blocks called pixels? A pixel is the smallest possible indivisible unit of the 2D screen. So think of reality as your TV screen, but in 3D. and think of the tetrahedron as a 3D pixel, the smallest possible indivisible unit of reality. The tetrahedra in the quasi-crystal combine with other tetrahedra using complex mathematical rules to fill up all of the space in the universe. Each tetrahedron only has a few specific states in which it can exist at any given moment. And because of the rules of how these pixels connect to each other, if one tetrahedron is in a certain state, this dictates the states of many other tetrahedra throughout all of space. But here's the weird thing. If a certain tetrahedron can be in any one of just a few possible states in a given moment, who or what chooses the state it should be in at any given moment? Well, for such a choice to be made, we need to scientifically, mathematically, and logically bring in a new element into physics. And that element is consciousness. If you're not a scientist, you might be surprised to learn that nobody actually knows the exact value of the speed of light.
And there it is. The good logic moment. Here we go.
We have a close approximation, but not the exact value. The closest we can get to measuring it has to do with the precision of our machines. But no matter how precise our machines get, we will never be able to measure the exact speed of light without a theory that tells us what it is and why it is. And none of the current physics theories do that. Oh, look, Professor Einstein.
Do we need to stop and talk about that? Are we all good? Okay.
I got stuck in Memento Mori's thought of going back to 1989. That sounds like fun. I'd be like 12.
Yeah, I'll take 1991 or 2 over 89. Yeah. I just need a couple more years.
Anywhere in those few years would be very fun and interesting.
Well, see, the difference is like 89. 89, I was graduating high school, and by 91, I was in fun times at college, at party college.
Sure.
But yeah. So,
Einstein, you look so cute.
So I look pretty here?
Yes, yes.
No, wait, that's my bad side. But if I go...
Yes, das ist gut.
What if I stick up my tongue like this? Bah!
Sehr gut.
Oh.
Our best physics theories,
little bit
Einstein's
cheese
theory
there.
of relativity, and quantum mechanics both use the speed of light as a starting point. In other words, they use an inexact measurement of the speed of light without explaining why it is, what it is, or why the universe even has a speed limit in the first place.
Sounds familiar, right? Sounds like Joe's argument.
We need a new theory. And such a theory is what the physicists and mathematicians of quantum gravity research in Los Angeles are working on. They call it emergence theory.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Like, this is a thinking exercise. Like, I'm not necessarily saying this is the God all end all truth or anything. That I'm endorsing it 100%. I just thought it'd be fun to watch together since we now have this common knowledge, and we can kind of like dissect it and decide if this makes sense. Do you think this makes more sense than what we have, or do you think that they're kind of going off the deep end? So let's definitely chat it up about that.
And it will, really for the first time ever, provide an explanation for the speed of light and the other constants, such as Planck's constant and the fine structure constant. Basically, what is needed is a theory of everything, a theory that explains the very fundamental aspects of reality. String theory, which once held a lot of promise for possibly being a successful theory of everything, has not made any successful predictions. And regardless of predictions, the theory itself isn't actually a theory of everything. It's just not, because it can't explain the speed of light or the other constants. Quantum mechanics and general relativity, on the other hand, do make good predictions, but they don't explain the fundamental constants either.
Professor Einstein, why does the speed of light have the exact value that it does?
Well, to put it plainly, security!
So what clues does nature offer us for what a theory of everything should look like? We've identified 7. Information, causality.
Here we go. These are important. So these are the seven pillars of their theory. These are pretty good. Yeah. See, what was the first one? Hold on. Just passed by it. Okay, well, they're going to give you all of them here. I'll just back up a little bit. Information. The concept of information is going to be, this first one they're going to talk about is very interesting. That everything's built out of information. Pretty interesting. And this does go into like simulation. I think they kind of head off towards simulation theory at the end of this. But take a look at this.
Information, causality loops, non-determinism, consciousness, pixelation, E8 crystal, and the golden ratio. A growing number of physicists are saying reality is made of information. What does that even mean? Well, information is meaning in the form of symbolism. A language or code provide this kind of information conveying symbolism. A very different type of symbol is one that represents itself. Geometric symbols can do that. A cube can represent love, if we say it does, or it can represent, really with minimal subjectivity, itself. Could there be a language or
Grim's like, no, oh my God, this is hurting. I don't know if that's his invisible hand or what we're watching.
Language express? Quantum physics theory and classical physics.
What's up? It's hurting, huh? What's hurting?
This is hurting. I don't know if that's the invisible hand or if it's what we're watching.
Yeah. No. Hey, give it a minute, dude. It'll work itself out. The lack of transfer of information means it doesn't exist. No. She's going to go into saying the energy is information. Like you'll see. Just hang in there, bud. Hang in there.
Physics indicate that reality is made of information, and there's no evidence that reality is made of anything other than information. Many physicists agree with this, and many don't. But those that don't agree that reality is made of information have no explanation for what reality is, if it's not information. Gentlemen?
Reality is made of information. Nope. Yes, it is made of information. No. Okay, so what is it made of if not information? Energy. Energy is information. That's stupid. Energy is the potential for a particle to change its position. Potential is information. Energy is information. No. It's information. Then what is it? Not information. And what is it? Not information.
Reality is geometric. A geometric language in the form of geometric symbolism, the type of symbols that represent themselves, might explain how a geometric reality can be made of pure information. Information implies meaning, but what is meaning? Meaning is a comparison. That's what we do, but we do it so fast we don't realize we're doing it. We look at something and we match it to something from our database. We say, that is a crosswalk. That is a building, not a crosswalk. That is a window, not a building. So meaning is the perception of something relative to something else. So therefore, meaning is subjective and requires choice. Can we get some dramatic music here?
I like Grimm's comment. He said energy is not in imitation because energy can be at rest. Information only exists when energy is transferred.
Agreed. Or is observed at rest, right?
Einstein showed how the past and the future exist simultaneously in one geometric object.
Sorry, this is interesting right here. This is a very hard concept for people to grasp. But like I have a difficult time kind of understanding this as well. But this is one of the better explanations I've heard. It's the idea of trying trying to make yourself realize that, that the past and the future and the present all exist in the same place. So this gives a good explanation for that, because you hear it a lot, don't you? Hold on a second. Let's see. Okay, so you cannot observe that at rest. You can only have a prediction of whether or not energy is stored. Okay, we'll keep that in mind. They may explain that here in a minute, but let's take a look.
So all time exists all the time.
Let me say that again. All time exists all the time. I know that sounds kind of weird and unintuitive, but we have to kind of suspend our common sense. And accept that mathematically, and according to the best physics formulas we have, that actually makes sense. So, let's visualize the geometric object that Einstein spoke about as a block. Remember the tetrahedra, the building block pixels of reality I told you about? Now imagine the entire universe, everything, everywhere, in one frozen moment in time.
Like a single frame in a movie. In this one frame, all of reality everywhere appears frozen in this one position. Let me give you an analogy. In a movie shot on 35mm film, there are 24 frames a second. There's no actual movement in a movie. There's just a sequence of frozen frames. Now, remember how I told you about the Planck length of space, which is the smallest length possible? Well, there is also a Planck length of time, and it is much shorter than 24 frames a second. In fact, it's 10 to the 44 times shorter than a second. Okay, so back to our frozen frame of reality. The entire universe in one frozen moment, one frame. But instead of a frame in a movie, it's a frame in all of reality. Now, imagine the next frame. Each frame is different from the previous one, just like in a movie.
The first time I saw that shot right there, I thought that was like the guy from the Monkees. Mickey. I think his name was Mickey. You guys remember the Monkees?
Yeah, Mickey Dolenz.
Yeah, did this guy look like him? Hold on.
Imagine the next frame. All frames exist in Einstein's in the previous one.
All right, I can't quite get it. Yeah, there he is.
Just like in a movie.
It kind of does. Wow.
Yeah, right?
See how all frames exist in Einstein's space-time all at once? Okay, now here's where things get really, really weird. We assume that the past influences the future. That's how we appear to experience reality. But when you look at this block, why would one side be the past and one side be the future? Why?
I think the hardest thing about this concept right here. Oh, thank you. There you go, Mickey Dolenz. Dolens. The hardest thing is like because we age, right? We age. That's what I thought of. That this is the hardest thing to realize, because we were born and then we get older and older and older and then we get really old and then we die, right? So this is the whole thing. Well, mine's questioning everything now. Good. Let's see. All frames are different. Each slice has a different probability of transfer. Planck time is a quasi-crystalline structure. We'll more of a glass because quasi-crystalline structure. Sorry.
No, you're fine.
Okay, and then we'll make more of a glass because it's ambimorphous. Okay.
There's words that I can't say either. It's okay.
It's all probability. Okay, well, just, you got to entertain the theory. We're entertaining the theory here. So
all right.
I haven't made up my mind. I'm definitely entertaining the theory. What do you think, Cool Frog?
Keep going. I'll give you a thought. Eventually.
Right and not right to left. Why can't the future influence the past? Take away the names past and future if that helps you think of this concept. So what if the past influences the future and the future influences the past in an endless feedback loop?
So then the question is, which part of the past is influencing which part of the future and vice versa? And the answer is, all time is affecting all time all the time.
Hi, I need a drink.
Right here, this part, like, it's pretty good.
Is this even possible? Can me 20 years from now influence me now, just as I influence her? So can me 5 minutes from now influence me 10 minutes ago, just as me 10 minutes ago influences me as a baby, just as me as a baby influences me on my deathbed?
I want some of the stuff that she's on.
This is too weird to even grasp. But everything we know says this is the way it is. Am I stoned? Every moment is creating every other moment, both forward and backward in time. Then reality would be this massive neural network spanning space and time. This type of network would have one even way stranger quality than anything we've talked about so far. It would be its own creator. But the fact that all time exists all the time does not mean that the future is written in stone and we're some kind of programmed animation or something. That's what they used to believe, though. Years ago, it was popular to believe in the somewhat bummer idea of reality being a deterministic program playing itself out.
Light is scattered by electrons and bounced off electrons.
The famous double-slit experiment ruled out determinism. Look it up if you've never heard of it. It's wild and is one of the cornerstones of modern physics.
But for now, take my word for it. It ruled out determinism and ushered in a new era of non-determinism, or basically free will.
So, how does free will work?
One of the most surprising discoveries of quantum physics is that reality only exists when it is observed. That literally, particles do not exist until they are observed.
Famous physicist John Wheeler, he's the guy who came up with the term black hole, says that reality is made of information,
which is created by observation.
The observation must be made, he says, by something conscious. And Nobel Prize winner Frank Wilczek said that quantum theory is contentious and obscure, and that it will remain that way until someone constructs, within the formalism of quantum mechanics, an observer, a model entity whose states correspond to a...
It's a good question right here. So is time a construct created by man and doesn't actually exist, and it doesn't actually exist? Yes, in a sense, right? I think we've been hearing that for a long time. At least I have. That yeah, it's something that we imagine, right? So when you get into like the upper dimensions, that becomes, the explanation becomes kind of like you can see all time and space. You can see all time and space through all parallel universes and existence and so on as you get higher up in the dimensions, right? So the idea is that time is a quote unquote an illusion, in a sense that the way we experience isn't necessarily the way that it is. It's just the way that we experience it on this plane. That's kind of what they're getting at.
A recognizable caricature of conscious awareness. An entity, an observer. So Frank Wilczek is basically talking about an entity, not necessarily a human being or an animal, that is capable of generating information by observing and measuring. But what would that conscious entity be? Well, we definitely know that consciousness exists in the universe. I mean, at least in us humans, right? I mean, I'm conscious, you're conscious, he's conscious, I think.
I'm conscious. I'm conscious.
Consciousness relates deeply to physics in ways not yet fully understood. In fact, consciousness is kind of like one of the least understood things in all of science. Nobody knows exactly what it is. Weird, right? So if reality is pure information, if everything, energy, matter, thought, if it's all information, then it becomes clear that reality deeply ties into consciousness in some way, as if the fundamental stuff of reality is somehow consciousness. Did consciousness and information somehow emerge in a causality feedback loop?
German physicist Werner Heisenberg developed the first equations of quantum mechanics using a type of math called matrix theory. He deduced that space and time were pixelated into indivisible three-dimensional Planck length units, just like the two-dimensional pixels on your computer screen.
It's good to be made of pixels.
The mathematics indicated this.
Mathematics. I love mathematics.
Your pizza, professor.
And pizza. Oh, I love pizza. Especially pixelated pizza.
And interestingly, there was no solid experimental evidence for smooth, in other words, not pixelated, space-time.
Pizza.
Not pixelated. Not pixelated. Pixelated. We are not pixelated. Not pixelated.
Yes, you are, morons.
Your mother is pixelated. This is smooth.
There is no evidence of that. And the mathematics show it is pixelated, so it must be pixelated.
Oh, that's interesting. Bullshit.
It must be pixelated.
Bullshit, 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 bullshit.
On the other hand, most scientists agree that a length can be no shorter than the Planck length, which suggests reality is pixelated.
There is no length shorter than the Planck length.
That means reality is pixelated.
I'm not pixelated. I'm not.
Dude, you're kind of being a little like one of those people who deny evolution because they can't handle the fact their ancestors were monkeys. Are you a monkey? Huh? Are you a little monkey?
We believe that until a quantum gravity theory of pixelated spacetime is discovered, the issue will remain confusing for everyone. What type of geometric code would describe a pixelated reality? 80 years of smashing particles together in particle accelerators, such as the famous Large Hadron Collider in Geneva, have given us a strange clue.
That all the fundamental particles and forces convert into one another. Like they literally transform from one to the other, according to a process called gauge symmetry transformation. And all of these conversions correspond to a shape. And not just any shape, an 8-dimensional shape. Now this shape forms a crystal. Now remember, crystals are periodic patterns of a certain shape, like that checkerboard is a 2D crystal made up of squares. So this crystal is of a particular 8-dimensional shape. And this crystal is known as the E8 lattice.
To generate that 3D quasicrystal, the substructure of the pixelated fabric of reality, we project this 8D crystal to 4D. And then we convert that to 3D. Now, just like the basic cell shape of the 3D cubic lattice is the cube, the cell shape of the
Rose.
lattice is an 8D shape with 240 vertices. We call it the Gaussian polytope. When the Gaussian polytope is projected to 4D, it becomes two identical shapes of different sizes. The ratio of their sizes is a unique number, 0.618, also known as the golden ratio. The golden ratio may be the fundamental constant of nature. It is a ratio that is fundamental to circumscribed equilateral triangles, and it's weirdly ubiquitous in the universe, appearing everywhere from the quantum to celestial scales. Ever so interestingly, it appears in black holes.
I don't want to fly into a black hole. I wish I never realized your existence.
Okay, let's get serious for a second. Here are 3 quick facts for you science heads. The golden ratio is the precise point where a black hole's modified specific heat changes from positive to negative. And it is part of the equation for the lower bound on black hole entropy. The golden ratio even relates the loop quantum gravity parameter to black hole entropy.
Why does this support the claim that the golden ratio is the fundamental constant of nature? Because a theory of everything must unite general relativity with quantum mechanics.
and a black hole is where these two theories converge at their limits. Okay, so bear with me through some really weird math right now, and I'll reward you with some amazing footage of John Malkovich getting a pie in the face.
Just
There's
what
a
we
type of
all want to
mathematics
see.
called matrix mathematics. No, not that type of matrix. Matrix
Johnny's in
math
the
is the type of
basement
math
mixing
that
up the
quantum
medicine.
physics uses in its formulas. Without getting too technical, this is an example of a matrix. A matrix is just a group of numbers that are arranged in columns and rows. And there's a certain amount of combinations for these numbers inside the matrix. Like if a matrix has 4 numbers inside it, there are 24 different possible combinations for those 4 numbers. Quantum mechanics uses matrices that are binary, so they only contain various combinations of 2 numbers. Each of these combinations of numbers has a value. It's called an eigenvalue. Some eigenvalues are called trivial. These are values like 1, 2, and 0. And some are called non-trivial. And those are all sorts of more complex-looking numbers. So, here's the interesting part. Where's that interesting part? Oh, yes, here. The highest probability non-trivial eigenvalues that show up in binary matrices are, ready for this, the golden ratio and -1 over the golden ratio. So we now see a deep link between black holes and quantum mechanics because the golden ratio appears deeply in both black hole physics and in quantum mechanics. Okay. Good job bearing with me. So, here's your reward. John Malkovich getting a pie in the face.
No, no. But I'm not John Malkovich.
Pie! The golden ratio appears to startling accuracies
They
in
need
many
comedy
other ways throughout the
writers.
universe in scales both large and small. It is so prevalent that its existence simply cannot be looked at as coincidental. In the past, the appearance of this ratio has usually been ignored by scientists because they had no way to explain it. So interest in it was considered the stuff of amateur scientists. But now, for the first time, a rigorous quantum gravity theory is being developed, which predicts the golden ratio's existence, literally, everywhere. So what would a theory of everything look like that answers these 7 clues we just presented? Information, causality loops, non-determinism, consciousness, pixelation, E8 crystal, and the golden ratio.
So we think reality is a mosaic-like code or language at the smallest scale of reality possible, which is called the Planck length. Particle accelerator data tells us that all particles and forces relate to one another according to a higher dimensional crystal called the E8 lattice. But reality appears to be 3D. So we project a slice of this E8 crystal down to 3D, which produces a quasi-crystal code or language. And that allows these geometric symbols to build up to the ordinary world of particles and forces that we see around us.
So, like, taking this into consideration, right? What this could possibly mean is that we could potentially be projecting ourselves into this reality and not actually be as immersed in it as we believe we are, right? The whole idea of being able to feel it and sense it and so on could just be a way to do that. And I think I've said that before when I was talking last time about possible explanation for the meaning of our existence, is to stay in the light throughout our lifetime and not be have our light extinguished so that we can return to the source. Well, we talked about whether that source could come from above or below, the smallest level or the highest level, right? We learned about dimensions, which told us that the God level power is at the 11th dimension, right? So when we think about that and we see how that we can actually project objects in different dimensions down into the third dimension, it becomes very interesting when you talk about existence and the concept of reality. Right. And how people say, hey, don't fear death and so on, that there's an afterlife as much as as much as we want to imagine what it is, that there is an afterlife that, everybody seems to, at least most people seem to believe that in some way, shape or form, get a new, an innate feeling or something, so when you think about it like that, you can start to kind of almost reconceptualize existence in a sense that we are projected down into these temporary life forms in the third dimension in order to experience things in a way we can't in any other possible way. That we can have a sensory of things, and that we have a body and we have an existence that's unlike anything that we can experience in other dimensions. So when you start to look at it like that, it's like, wow, this kind of changes the whole idea of what we're doing here and why. Right? And that's the fun stuff. That's the fun things to think about, because then you can really challenge your reality and see if the ones you're buying into is stands the test of time. It's just fun things to do and think about what the nature of our real existence is and so on. But I like to think about the idea that maybe we're just being projected into this reality, and it would be something that we understand at a different level, but we can't understand here. Just keep that in mind.
Now, this geometric language has rules, but it also has syntactical freedom like any language. And that requires some notion of a chooser to choose the free steps in the language. Now, the notion of randomness doesn't work so well when it comes to codes, because meaning starts to break down. Besides, there's no decent experimental evidence for randomness in nature in the first place. A universal collective consciousness is one answer, but that sounds new age and religious. Now, nowadays, a good number of physicists discuss the idea that our whole universe is actually a code-based simulation in some fantastically powerful quantum computer in another universe. Now, if true, then by the same logic, that other universe where
Maybe this guy's drugs are better than the
our
last.
universe is would also supposedly
Isn't that Doctor Strange?
be a simulation in another universe. So the idea is a little shaky, but it's being discussed seriously by a lot of credible people. But it turns out that a universal collective-like consciousness of some sort may be physically inevitable. Now, we don't need to anthropomorphize this idea or make it religious or spiritual. To follow why, let us start with the idea of the collective behavior of cells in your body, each a single-celled microbe living its life. A long time ago, only this sort of cellular life form existed here on Earth. These little guys were not too smart, but they did choose what direction to swim and could chase nutrients, reproduce, and run from dangerous things. They made choices with their very simple systems of environmental awareness and desire to survive. Then they self-organized into colonies that were smarter as a group and had more environmental awareness than the individuals. Eventually, animals such as humans emerged. Sophisticated forms of awareness and consciousness now float on an ocean of 37 trillion living cells, self-organized as a human being. It is specifically the laws of physics that caused electrons and quarks to self-organize into 81 stable atoms, and from there, into human consciousness. And physics places no upper limit on the amount of energy and matter that can self-organize into conscious systems.
Physics allows the possibility of all the energy in the universe to eventually convert into a single conscious system that is itself a network of other conscious systems, a massive, technologically based collective consciousness. Given enough time, anything that can happen will eventually happen. By this axiom, this system of universal consciousness has already emerged somewhere in the frames of space-time ahead of us. Because it is possible, it is inevitable. In fact, according to the evidence of retrocausality time loops, that inevitable future is co-creating us right now, just as we are co-creating it.
All right. There you have it. That was quite a ride, huh?
That made my brain hurt.
Well, it's just taking a step away from kind of what we're used to and thinking of things in a different way. The whole idea of, we're creating the future and the future is creating us. I could see that in a way. I could see how that could correlate, in a sense that because of the ideas that we have, that when we put energy into the ideas, we create the ideas, that becomes the future. The idea of what kind of future we want would influence what we're doing right now. So I think we kind of live that in a way, right? We live it in a way that we want to have a free future. So we're doing things about it today to hopefully bring that around in the future, right? So that would be the future influencing the present, right? As well as the past, what we know about where things are headed, influencing.
I think I've been listening to Grimm too much or whatever. I mean, she ended with a false dichotomy. It's like, yeah.
What's the false dichotomy? What is it?
I don't know, but like I said, she made my brain hurt. I'm like, duh. I don't. I need Grimm to work that out for me.
Well, I mean, just take it for what it is. Honestly, he's got his point of view, right? But I don't think anything's determined. Like by saying this is this, not that. I'm like, well, you got a lot of work to do to kind of prove that. So, right now, everything is theory in a lot of ways. So we're still trying to work it out. So these people are trying to work it out their way. And, other people have worked it out their way, but nothing's been decided. I don't think nothing's been decided. Greg, you have a link, by the way. I did send you a link. You certainly are welcome to join us.
Come in here and fix this issue that we have.
I don't think it's an issue. I just think it's a matter of if you understand, like you can look at the concepts in that kind of way, right? If you can get away from what you've been told.
I couldn't believe a word that was coming out of her mouth.
Well, what about it? Why couldn't you believe it?
Because it didn't make any sense.
What part?
The whole thing just made no sense to me at all.
Hey, Winning, I'm being summoned by my parents, so I'll be listening and I'll be in the chat.
Awesome. Thanks, Jessica. Take care.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Well, I mean,
I took that as she felt the same way I did.
What's that?
I seriously like zero thought because there was this like strange, irrelevant information throughout the whole thing that just made me say, huh? What the fuck did she just say to me?
Well,
this is me. I'm just saying.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of how to, you have to go back to the very beginning and get to the root concepts to kind of like work through that. Like I said, this is a simulation theory, really. Like I say, I'm not trying to say that this is the way it is, but it's how we approach kind of thinking about things, right? Just step outside of our comfort zone in a sense that we don't kind of just fall back on what we've been, what people have been saying over and over again for a long time. As you can tell by, just in this century, we've changed from like a more of a determinist to a non-determinist kind of point of view in the world. There was a time when everybody thought things were just already pre-programmed in fate, right? So there was fate, not free will. And today we live in more of a free will kind of mindset. This is kind of more of a free will model, I would think. And the sense is that, what we're saying is by looking at things from a micro and a macro level and a dimensional level, we can start to figure out what things have in common and then kind of look at reality from a more nuts and bolts kind of like granular level, right? Now people can say, okay, well, these theories that this one dude came up with a long time ago that we all agree with are the only thing that exists. And, we have to judge everything by that. I'd say that everybody's theories are always on the table and always up for, being optimized or being scrutinized. They have to be otherwise you just have an authoritarian system. So, Einstein's is done a lot for society and the world and understanding things and was an amazing person, but by all means, he wasn't the person that knew everything and got everything right. And so, we have to kind of like just, I would say open-mindedness, right? Like in the past, like when I would go through things like that and I wouldn't understand concepts, I would kind of start to ask myself, what concept didn't I really get? And that's something I need to learn more about. And I'd break it down from concept to concept until I could at least grasp what they were getting at, right? So I don't know that they have it all figured out. They're obviously putting a lot of energy into trying to prove this sense. But like anything else, they're gonna present a theory. It's gonna be, people say it's solid, it's not solid. You've done a lot of good work, you haven't done enough work, whatever it is. But it's just gonna always be a theory. It's like same with the rest of it. It's always just going to be a theory. We can just decide that it's the best theory, right? So until we have like legitimate proof, which she said at the end, she goes, until we have this model, right? No one's ever going to be able to prove this stuff. And that's what they're talking about. But they're talking about a one theory, a kind of unifying theory of everything from what they kind of we've collectively figured out. It's deep stuff. It's deeper stuff. It's definitely not for everybody, but it can kind of give us an idea of maybe some of the deeper systems that go on, outside of our range of knowledge or understanding on a day-to-day basis that actually help, form and create society and reality. And if we're all co-creators in that, understanding how that works could have a positive impact on how we all co-create the future together. That's kind of my point for kind of reviewing things like this. It's like, what can we take away from it without a new theory of, time, space, and record, conflicting with people's belief systems. But, is there some information in there that can be applied to how we go about getting ourselves on track to actually save reality from where it's heading right now? So, and is there a way that we can use this information, maybe even one part of it or any part of it, to bring people together in a way that has never been done? My whole point is that if we try to do what they do, we won't be successful. And if we do nothing, we won't be successful. So, I'm looking for ways to kind of expand our knowledge and understanding of the world and reality and existence so that we can kind of find a way to come together and overcome these bigger battles that seem to be rolling on throughout existence, like good and evil and dark and light and things that we're battling right now. That's where I come from with this stuff. So I'm not I don't come in here and try to say I'm going to change physics or this is the one theory and so on and so forth. But you can take these knowledge that people have spent a lot more time on than me and kind of get some things out of it. So what do you think about that?
What did you say to me?
The
whole thought of the whole thing or whatever, just seriously, it's too much for me to even wrap my brain around, to even try and actually give you a coherent thought on. I seriously.
Let's step it back then. Let's step it back. Let's step back to the emergence part of it and the spontaneous order. Let's forget, that whole reality thing. That was just for fun at the end there. What I want to focus on is like how we can organize, for lack of a better word, how we organize a group of independent thinkers that are against any kind of authoritarian systems, really. In the end, and at least at the point that they're dictating life and reality and thought and so on. How do we take that how can we take that something like that to the people and bring people together through that, realizing that, hey, look, we may seem like we're all kind of off on our own sometimes, but really the fact that we're off on our own doing something means we're all actually all working together. Where the other side is very much highly dependent on organization and manipulation and deception and like basically force, so that they are forcing people to, and whether it be through coercion or pressure or whatever, to assimilate to their authoritarian kind of belief system and the way that they are trying to create the future for themselves. Right now, like I say, every day is a battle for reality. Every day is a fight for reality, and that's why. That's the deeper concept of the name and behind the channel. It's like, I came up with it when I wrote a song called, Every Day is a Fight for Reality, because I realized every day was a fight for reality. And, I wanted to be winning that reality. So, and right now the fight is on to whether or not we're going to be living in a cesspool full of despotism, or we're going to be freeing ourselves and building a better system to live in, to go forward for our children and our future offspring to thrive in. So that's kind of like what I'm talking about here. Like we can't be them, right? That's who they are. This is who we are. Now we
I got a
understand ourselves.
tadpole bugging me. Hold on.
How do we work together? How do we do that? So chat, tell me what you think. Hey, Alan, how you doing? What you think? Like how about this spontaneous order and how it's kind of the natural way of people like us, like the free thinkers, the people who don't mesh well with authoritarianism and all that. I think it's good stuff in the sense that we have to understand how we want to operate, how we're made to operate, and how we operate best, right? So through emergence, things like unity can come about, which is going to be key to taking down the power of the authoritarian, right? Because with division, they get their power. Without division, when we have unity, they don't get that power. And that's a key thing that's going on right now. If you can't tell, if that division is fueling their tanks.
Oh yeah, it's totally fueling tanks. That's for sure. Without the division being sown, there'd be, I don't know. I just don't see it being the way it is. You go back to being, or you'd actually have more of an echo chamber. I think so maybe the division is actually kind of good for it, but at the same time, they've continued to divide so many things. So much further than what it needs to be divided, and it's really starting to hurt everybody. It really needs to be stepped back a few steps or whatever, and stop with that much division, really, because it's really hard.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And like it comes off their ism train, right? So they from the elitism through racism to sexism to so on, all the things that pull us apart and change the world and give them power. So that's the idea. Is like once we can, and that we have to realize that we can't just stand still either, but that we have to recognize when we're actually working together. Like things like when you get a copyright, someone loses their channel and all these people come together. Some people are out there organizing, some people are out there putting out information, some people are out there motivating, they're coming up with concept strategies. They all just kind of, they spring into action. Nick Ricada didn't get on there and start, dictating what everybody should do in this situation and, do it now and so on. And you guys know you're not supposed to do that. They're supposed to do that. No one's acting like that. Right. But that's what they would do on the other side. This is only for these kind of people. This is only for these kind of people. No, you can't say that. You can't do that. You can't look that way. You can't, that's them. That's not us. Right. So that we're not really alone on an island by ourselves. But when you look around, you see people like, the LawTube community. You see people like in the new media community. You see people like us coming up into the space. You know that we are actually, in a sense, working together, and we've found each other through that type of spontaneous order or that synergy, if you will.
Real quick, hello, Alan Walsh. I see that he said hi to both of us. I was looking at Daisy's before that, where can we have a written test instead of an oral? I mean, I like oral, but multiple choice questions are always fun. It's just giving me an open ended and say here, give me an in the ass. Most people don't like that.
Right. We like to challenge our thinking, right? And that's you have to listen to different ideas and to do that. But the one thing's for sure, I'll tell you what is for sure. If we sit around and do nothing and wait for some leader to emerge, it's going to save us all. We might as well just go ahead and give it up. You might as well just join the establishment and hope they don't line you up on the wall because we're not going to win that way. There's no possible way for that to happen. It's like they'll stall us until we lose. We can stay here and forget about it or wait for someone else to do it. But in the end, that doesn't mesh with our style. Our way of victory, or our way of actually being effective as the kind of people that we are. We need to be involved. We need to be connected and working together in that kind of immersive sense. So I think that's when we're most effective. I think that's the things that have built society and made it into a good thing, humanity included. But yeah, if you could imagine a future where we sit around and do nothing and win, please tell me, because I'd love to hear it, and I'd love to, just take a break and just wait for it. I mean, honestly, I've thought about it. I can't imagine a way that, one guy comes along and changes everything. Our president does this. It's not going to happen, dude. There's so many more things we have to do,
And that's just thinking about what's actually currently happening or whatever, when it actually comes down to it, like I need to actually continue to do things to actually continue to grow a channel. And, so then when I get somebody like Max Murrah saying, hey, oh, sorry, I missed last night, I was getting excited. I thought it was tonight. I'm like, oh, we'll just do an impromptu then. So like in an hour, Max Murrah is actually supposed to join me for a show, just because I didn't have anything planned. I wasn't going to do that. But if I stopped and actually didn't do that, would my channel continue to grow? No, probably not. I need to actually, step it up a little bit and continue to do different things. Not to show myself out real quick or anything, but to go along with what you're saying. To go along with what you're saying, though, is that pretty much what it comes down to? Is I'm gonna fail if I don't continue to push and do different things, right?
Thanks, Graham. Appreciate it, man. Thanks for participating, man. And whenever you want to come on, man, just you can.
Right. Or if you're interested, you're still awake in an hour. Come check us out.
Yep. Yeah. Are you going live tonight?
Yeah, like I said, I wasn't going to do anything, but Max Murrah actually hit me up and he's like, "Oh, I thought he's seen my my invite from last night." And he's like, "Oh, I'm off by 24 hours. I'm sorry. I was kind of excited for a moment." And I'm like, "Oh, let's just do something." And he's going to join me. So this is regardless to who all shows up, and myself and Max Murrah will be there for sure.
Yeah, I'll come by.
To actually basically what I'm saying is to grow and to continue to make things work. I mean, like you said, you can't just sit around and do nothing and wait for it to happen. It's not going to happen. But as long as I can actually do something and also make something happen, and it's like, oh, okay, I'm going to do that. I'm going to continue to push to actually make myself better, because sitting back and doing absolutely nothing's not going to help me.
Yep. So like people out there in the chat, like, what do you guys think of when you hear that, right? What do you, there's some of us out there that are doing like what me and Cool Frog are doing, but there's also a lot of other people out there. There's people out there that are dedicated mods, and they're helping run the show from the ways that they can, right? But what in your daily life, what are you inspired to do? Like, how do you think that you can contribute? This is, and not like, even like you have to, like, I'm trying to put this in such a way that doesn't seem like you have to do this, but I'm talking about like what is inspired in you what's calling to you to do, right? As in, no one's telling you to do it, but you feel like you should be doing something and you want to do this, want to do that. Listen to that little voice. Try to like, if you haven't, hey, how you doing, BL? BLK, Sheepdog, Tony G. If you haven't already, listen to that little voice, see what it says. I'd really be interested, because you never know where you might be inspired to contribute in such a way, and what kind of great impact it may have,
Yeah. What's up, Tony? Good to see you.
Wait a second. Hold on. Someone asked a question up here a minute ago. Where is it at? Cox. This one right here. Are we truly as divided as they want us to believe we are, though? That's a great question. I like the way that you worded it as well, because we are truly divided, but at the same time, they do want us to believe that we're further apart than we actually are. We're actually not that far apart.
Right, really not that far apart. Yeah. It's very interesting. I've held several different random conversations with several different people about division, and it seems as though it's like almost every single person that I've talked to pretty much feels about the same way. They're not that far off. There might be one or two thoughts that are a little off, but when it comes down to like ideals or whatever, if we're really not that far apart from each other, if you actually talk to each other about those ideas, you'll actually see that the ideas are really similar and close. But we don't like certain people to actually be running the show. Like our current resident, he's. When we think about certain things, he's just like, oh, wait a minute here. We're really not that far apart. We're actually so super close to each other in thought, but you know, he's going to sit there and say, well, now wait a minute, you can't do, you need to be divided because, you know, if you vote for a MAGA, you're against democracy, you know, or whatever. And it's like, well, wait a minute here. I'm not against democracy really when it comes down to it. It's just what form of democracy you're trying to push on me. Oh, right. Socialism. No, that's not democracy. You know, so I mean, there's really certain things that we really need to, you know, conversations that do need to be had to actually keep things moving the way they're supposed to.
Yeah,
right?
you know, we seek them out. We seek them out.
Right.
You know, when you started getting hungry for information, and you started getting hungry to see who else out there, you know,
Right.
was going through what
like
you're
when I
going
first
through.
met you. And, you know,
Yeah.
I'd seen you a couple different places, you know, Racket's chat or somebody else's chat, whatever, to, you know, go and look you up and see what you're about to us and see that you're actually live, to go jump into your chat and say, hey, what's up with this? What's up with that? You know, how do you feel about this? To actually grow to the point where we talk to each other almost every single day.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless to how much we say to each other, we still talk to each other every single day. And it's been what 3-4 months maybe.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, so I mean,
at least for sure. Yeah, you found me in my first live stream. And that's him following his instincts. You know, that's Cool Frog following what he's good at, and you can see what he's good at because he brings people together. He's like a hub, and I've known people that are like hubs. You know, like universal hubs. I've been a universal hub many times.
I'm like Kansas City. You know, right in the middle, big huge hub. You know, pull everybody in.
But he has that ability, and so, you know, he follows his instincts. He follows his what's driving him, and, you know, look at the results, right? Look at the results. He brings a lot of people together. He has these this community is growing, and we're meeting new people all the time, and you know, the ideas are flowing, right?
Exactly. T3. That's how you found me. Did the same exact thing. She jumped into my chat. She was saying something, and I read every single thing that she had actually put in there out loud, and then said, we should talk. You can come join me. We have a conversation. And one of the easiest people to actually hold a conversation with is her.
Yep. You know who else does that? Another person that's really good at it too is Tam. I know she was here at the beginning. I'm not sure if she's still here or not, but dude, Tam's done wonders. If you just as a moderator on Discord, you know, she's done wonders, dude. She's brought all kinds of people together and introduced all kinds of people to different things. Yeah, very much so, man. You wouldn't, you know, she does what she can do in her way, and that's what it's all about. And that works.
Now, as we're sharing our ideas like this, you're bringing up that person. I've never actually talked to Tam.
Oh, really?
Would I be interested in talking to him? Yeah, probably. Why not? It sounds like an interesting person.
Oh yeah, definitely. I've never actually physically talked to her, but I've definitely done a lot. Like, you know, she doesn't really get online and get into voice chats and get into
no, and it doesn't even have to be on a stream or whatever. Yeah. It's just in general, just to, you know, speak with, you know. So
yeah, see, there you go, right here. Right. See, people know her. That's the impact she's making. Like, you know, she brought me to your Discord. She brought me to V's Discord.
There you go.
You know, and I've become friends with him, and we've talked a lot. We're going to do a stream one day when he has time and I have time, but yeah, you know, opposite sides, but a lot of common.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. You know, she does a lot of that. She brought a lot. She helped me set up my Discord server, and she helped bring people there initially, and she's one of my moderators. So, you know,
nice.
Just like that. Anybody, there's always something, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you do graphics, maybe you draw comics, maybe you know, it's just those things, right? And what's calling you. And I, you know, like I said, I often think back about the Ron Paul days where it was so like, I felt so like, I felt like I was being driven by a force to do that. Sometimes it was just so automatic. And so like, I couldn't stop no matter what. I had to see it through. It's kind of crazy, but it was like, you know, I felt like that was what I had to do then in order to, you know, do the best for my son and my family. So, you know, that's a high motivator. And I did, you know, it led to this. It led to this.
You see that she's like, love, talking trash and truth, and Cool Frog is who made us know about her. Right? Exactly. I mean, there's so many people that have come through that, you know, when, you know, good logics or Nick Ricada's, chats or whatever, they just sit in chat. Everybody talks to each other kind of randomly or whatever. Nobody really knew each other that well. I mean, not that we really know that much about each other, but we know enough to hold a conversation. So that when, Talking Trash and Truth actually was in my chat, I refused to, just skip past it. And I've needed to actually go and check out everything that she was actually saying to actually bring me to the point of actually saying, okay, we need to, how many people's chat is she in? Awful lot. If you actually look around now and you actually, because now that you know of her, you see the name more often. You're like, oh, she's sitting in Nick Ricada's chat almost every night. If not every night, and she's always saying something to somebody and always has something interesting to say. So it's like, who else can we run into? Because there's so many more people that are out there that are doing this thing.
Yep. What I can tell you is like, with my experience is like this. It's like, you're always going to be, there's always going to be an opportunity to bring in and meet new people and bring in new ideas and inspire people. There's also always going to be the monographs, the Joshes, and the whoever comes like, hey, American Shirts, what's up?
Oh my Lord, right?
There's always going to be those guys.
.com.
As soon as one of them takes off or we shoo one off, another one's going to show up. I mean, it's just the nature of the beast. It's how it works in the music industry too. It's like, who's showing up to your shows or who your newest super fan, quote unquote, is. It's always that. It just, you have to just know that it comes with the territory. It's like right now, there's the next drama is building in some way, shape, or form, and it's not a fault of the community. It's just in the nature of anything that happens like that, because there's opportunity there, and good people will take opportunity and bad people will take opportunity. It's just it's opportunity.
Real quick, Shirts, check your DMs, dude. Discord. Just saying.
Where's that at? Yeah, there you go. Yep, he sure does.
he knows you. He knows you very well.
Sure does. Sure do. I gotta not do that, man. I got the monograph impersonation down too well, and now it's just gonna like.
You've been watching that guy too much. You need to step away from him.
I do, because like right now I'm like, I think I could get this guy to like, I think I could like give him a hat, like a good way to go out on his career, like turn things around, come back. I'm thinking like that. I'm like, dude, you gotta not do that. I just realized the other night, I was like, I bet you there's a way to get him to stop for good. I can kind of see it, but that's just me challenging myself. It's, he's going to go away on his own, but yeah. But like I said, that comes with the territory.
He goes away if you tell him to. He really does. He has this moral in his mind that once somebody tells me to go away, I just go away. I'm not going to talk about you, talk to you, talk about anything that goes anything along with you ever again. And it's very interesting.
Yeah. Well, hey, it's like the thing about him is the reason why I think that is because I think he's somewhat redeemable, because I see real empathy in him, and he loves his wife, he loves his dog, and I think that has something to do with it. He seems redeemable, even though he seems like he's had a long history and he's a bad character, and he's made some threats and tried to impact some people's lives, and maybe has, but I think at the end of the day, there's that there's some people that just don't seem redeemable, and there's some people that do. They have a hint of it, and I could see a hint of it in him. So who knows?
American Shirt says he has a wife. Yeah.
Yeah, he does. He does. He seems to really care about her. He mentions her a lot, and
Yeah, she was whatever on stream with them the other day or whatever, in voice anyway. It's kind of interesting. It's like, well, okay. There's some proof that there's a woman in his life.
Says something.
He can still be that much of an asshole. It's amazing.
Yeah. He's a
Maybe she needs to do something for him.
He's in heavy defensive mode, and I think that he doesn't. She's not into like the internet stuff, and I think I said when we were just kind of like, doing a check in on him, making sure he's not like plotting against us. That he, I think maybe his biggest fear is a fear of her finding out these rumors or these things from the past of his that he's not proud of, whatever you want to call it. And that impacting his relationship. I think that might be one of his biggest motivations out there, is not to mess up something that he has that he really cherishes, and so he's willing to fight anybody for it. And so when people bring up the shit, instead of giving him a chance or the benefit of the doubt, he just goes into attack mode and does the only thing he knows how to do. So who knows? You wouldn't know unless you talk to him. Like I may have a conversation with him one day and I totally changed my mind about all this because the conversation was different than, what I thought, what I was seeing. You never know. Sure.
Right.
But I would like to see the guy just kind of, have a chance to say what he has to say, prove his points, and then kind of just be like, it's been like this, and this is why I did this, and now I just kind of want to bury the hatchet and be done with it and move on, and who knows?
Laura says Monty and whoever this Josh guys are both obsessed with Takeda. Yeah, now they are. The thing is they started off like Josh started off picking on Jessica of all people. The Melon Man. I'm just saying. So he started off somewhere, and picked on Jess, you, me, Madcore. And when we all finally were too much for him, he actually stepped it up a notch, or tried to step it up a notch, and actually moved on to Nick Arcata.
He started with Nick. He has a past with him, but then he came in during the Keflis thing, and he took Keflis' side by saying that when Nick read off the names, that he was using intimidation to keep people from ever reporting his him for ethics violations to the bar, right? That's what he said. And then it was off of that, he kind of picked up on the rest of us, everybody started coming in on him. But because that's what we do. Of course we're going to do that. We're like, shut, you decided with Keflis. What are you doing? Is that who you are? Then we see you as that. And so that's what we do. So we, and then that kind of spurred off of that. The Josh thing was like, yeah, how that happened. We were all there.
No, yeah, right. And it's just like, wait a minute here. Yeah,
he was already a super fan though. But something tells me that he was always that was always going to happen. Like he was always going to end up turning on Nick because he was not going to get the love and appreciation that he was after for making the Twitter thing and saying he's #1 super fan and all that stuff, or he was going to blow it, one or the other. But
it's really weird though that he actually said that he was the #1 super fan and thought that he was the #1 super fan to being the dumbass that he is. I mean, he really seriously like shot himself in the foot on that one. It's just like, dude, you can't be somebody's super fan and still call him out for all the stuff that they do. He fucked up.
Yeah, I mean, I think that when you use the word super for anything, when you're referring to yourself, you might be in trouble.
Yeah, right.
He's a super mentalist and all this other stuff. I'm a mentalist. I look into your soul. That's what the eyebrows are for, like radar dishes. They're soul penetrators. Man,
he needs to take more of those prescribed drugs or whatever, and actually maybe think again, or maybe take less.
Yeah. Or he went off of them. That's what he said. That's
He's
what he
a
told
mental
us.
and an ist. That's good.
Yeah. Yep. He's got it down. I haven't checked in on him lately. I don't know what he's up to. Last I checked, he was still just trying to be trying to talk to himself in public, basically. I don't know if he's trying to make any moves or not, but I hope that someone gets someone picks up on this and gets the guy help. It's like he needs to get on his medicine and deal with whatever the problems are that cause this to happen, so he doesn't hurt anybody. Bottom line. So it's all fun and games till someone gets hurt, right? Yep. But anyways, So yeah, so there will be other people, opportunists. There will be other people with issues that surface because we're in motion. We're in motion. We're moving forward. And when you do that, those things happen, as well as meeting good people and new friends and so on. There'll be so always keep your eyes out for it. That's what you learn when you're in the band, right? That's when you're in that. You learn just to keep your eyes out for it, how to deal with it, how to move it along fast, and that's what you do. And that's what we used to do with all the thousands of people that came at us today with offers, and they're going to throw this one-of-a-kind festival and all this shit. Heard it a million times, man. So, oh, hey, we want to do this for you. Oh, hey, we're doing that. Oh, hey, we're doing that. Like, why? All of a sudden you're doing this, right? So you're like, you have to look at everybody really carefully. You always have to make sure you get paid and all that stuff when you're a band on the road, no matter what you think you got locked in. It's like, you never know when it's going to happen. That's the way it is here. I said 90% of it was just showing up and then putting out fires. Right. Okay. Well, hey, look, yeah, it's been a lot of fun here tonight. I think we've all learned something. And hey, chat, man, I love it. You guys are always here. You guys are the best. You guys, thank you so much. We're growing, and I'm happy with the people that are here and what we're talking about, what we're doing. Good things ahead always. I think Cool Frog, what are you doing tonight? You got a Max Mira.
Max Mira joining me in about 40 minutes. That's a regular start time for me, at 10 o'clock Mountain Standard. As far as that goes, there's no specific topic. So anybody that, that's around normal, whatever, would like to actually join in, most likely they can. I'm not going to say no, because then you can get just different styles and types of conversations, and you'd just be surprised what we can actually, talk about, especially with Max. He's so full of knowledge. It's great. So,
yeah, you guys know who Max is, right? You know who Max is, right? Oh yeah. Just to make sure you guys know who he is.
But yeah, Max is a cool dude. Anybody that hasn't met Max before or whatever, you might be really surprised what kind of person he is and what he's about. He's so fun to talk to. Like I said, so full of information. I could give him the floor. He could actually speak himself. Oh, Max's face.
I've been so happy in my whole life.
Is he fair and balanced?
Now I have a place to put my hand.
Like, oh man, that's so good. Yeah, he's just famous. He's a star, big American Hollywood star now. Thanks, guys. Hey, all right, man. We're gonna do this again next Sunday, and we'll have some new topics to go over and whatnot. I think we got enough of that, right? You guys don't want to go into theory, right? I got a sense of that it might be a little bit overwhelming, but we're gonna put it to use, and we'll talk about some new things next week, and we'll keep moving it forward. And you catch us over on Cool Frog at 12 o'clock, at 12 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is just about 40 minutes away. So
yeah, somewhere about 40 minutes ish, somewhere in there.
Yeah. And don't forget, we're going to go out with a little bit. So here is from Savannah, Georgia, 10/29/22. They like to do covers on Halloween. So awesome. Here you have it.
Later, y'all.
Later.
Can I still be heard?
Yeah.
Oh, just real quick. America shirt says that he will be there. Just saying. All those. Nice meeting you too, Laura.
I can't wait to hear the guitar solo on this.
That's you?
Oh, I wish.
Oh, okay. I see Daisy
guitar
Girl
got Jimmy
Williams
Yang.
is saying Hayden tripped out. You got to see his reaction. Uh-oh. That might be interesting.
I want to see it. When was it? When was it?
I don't know. I just see that she... She wants you to continue to replay it for the next half hour.
We'll just play music for half an hour. If people stick around, we'll do it.
I mean, yeah. If y'all gonna stick around, absolutely, he'll do just about anything.
I used to run Sound Daisy. We can talk.
Nice. I'm actually going to stand up for a minute. So.
All right. I've been to that place in Myrtle Beach. Yep. All right, guys. Have a good one. I'll see you over on Cool Frogs. Good night and keep on winning.